Hello again, friends! The great Brian Last here, you there. We are back on the bus, part 3 of Jim Cornette's Omnibus, The Rise of the Bloodline. Let's get right back to the action.
And then finally, we're ready for our main event. Yes, that's right. That's what I'm telling you. A 2-hour network television program. We got a tag team match for half an hour. We got race car drivers. We got Cruella and Charlotte for, oh golly, about 12 minutes, I think it was. Maybe just 10. Then we got the Brutes and the Vikings for however the fuck long. We got 4 minutes of a women's four-way. And the main event on the program is a live interview. And they wonder why nobody's interested in their matches.
And sadly, the interview is more interesting in every one of their matches.
Yes, and the interview was the only thing that was really, if I had my druthers, that I would have watched on purpose out of this whole program. Nobody can find, again, Jey Uso. Nobody can reach him. They're all getting his voicemail. Roman is upset, and he's pissed off, and he's disrespected. And he's been snapping at the other boys, but now he says he needs Solo, and he needs Jimmy, he needs everybody together. You guys go to the bus. The wise man got the sushi and the steak, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know.
Listen, the steak, the sushi, they spent way too much time talking about the food thing.
He gave the menu. Yeah, you'll love the California rolls, boys, and don't forget that volcano roll. But anyway, you go to the bus and eat, and wait for me. I'm going to go out to the ring. They couldn't come up with, he couldn't even say, look, I want you guys on that bus in front of the goddamn fucking Skype. I want one of you on the phone. I want everybody trying to get a hold of, no, just go eat. So he'll be alone for a little while. But anyway, Roman and Paul enter and they get acknowledged. And Roman says he'd rather talk about Cody, somebody who deserves his attention. The winner of the Royal Rumble. And again, Roman Reigns is so good.
That was good. Yeah.
Just speaking so good. Just everything, the material, the delivery, the inflection, the looks, the tone. And he talks about Sami. Sami was greedy. He wanted shit from him like everybody else wants shit from him, from Roman. He gave Sami the opportunity of a lifetime and he used him. And he's doing a great promo. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody in a hoodie jumps in a ring and fucking tackles Roman and starts wailing on him, and it's fucking Sami. And it gets a huge pop. Holy shit, the people are going fucking crazy. And then as soon as, of course, Roman realizes what's going on, he starts fighting back and levels Sami. And then gets the chair and composes himself. And this was perfect. This was perfect the way that Roman was selling for Sami, but he was also selling for the surprise. He was, and then he didn't just turn his back on Sami. He was turning to get his composure, something that would have happened if a guy that honestly is not his physical level still got to drop on him. This is exactly how he seemed he would have reacted. He gets the chair, Roman does, and he's going to go and smite Sami, and he draws back, and Sami comes out of nowhere with a spear and gets a massive pop. Boom! And goddamn Sami gets the chair and draws it back and swings it, and Roman rolls out of the way, boom, and Sami plants it on the ground hard, bent the back of it, and Roman rolls out on the floor with the gaga eyes, like, what the fuck is going on here? And then Sami does the promo. I never wanted anything from you until now. Now I want your title. And a big fucking pop. Holy shit. And then here comes Solo and Jimmy. They come in the ring from behind and jump Sami, and they beat him down and put the chair on his head. And Solo's going for the big ass face. And Roman stops him and takes a chair off Sami's head and cuts the promo. And here, this wasn't, I didn't have the same problem as I did with the Rumble being, they were allowed to have unmitigated, allowance to kill this guy for as long as possible, and nobody lifted a finger. In this case, it was happening, it was going, it was transpiring, it was moving, it was suddenly evolving. we're getting to the point, and then when Roman stops him and takes the chair off Sami's head, then they're not killing him. He's just yelling at him. But he fucking cuts the promo on him without a microphone, but to the camera mic. You broke up my family. My right-hand man isn't here because of you. I'm going to break you in front of your family. I want you in Montreal. How the fuck did we overlook, Brian, that the February premium live pay-per-view fucking house show event is in Montreal? This is perfect. We were talking about, should Sami and Roman be at WrestleMania? No. They ain't never going to do that one. But Sami and Roman in Montreal is fucking perfect. It'll be another goddamn, a Calgary Stampede pay-per-view from July of 97 with the whole Hart family.
Yeah, and the place will explode when Owens runs in.
Yes, it's perfect. So that's the thing, is Roman now gives Sami the match in Montreal for the title. And I'm sure they've realized this before they've even pulled the trigger on this. Some way or another, whether it starts before Montreal or whether it happens in Montreal and continues to WrestleMania, Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes are going to be fucking best friends. They better be. And Sami better be wholly behind and potentially partly responsible for whatever happens. It better happen with Cody winning that title from Roman at WrestleMania. Or elsewise, but if Sami is put into a position where he is allowed to neutralize interference or to foil a dastardly plot or to make a difference at a crucial moment when somebody's trying to cheat Cody, and then Cody is able to win the thing on his own with no unprovoked fucking assistance, then everybody will be happy. But if they are not friends and Sami has not blessed and endorsed Cody's path to the title in some kind of way, there's going to be a significant portion of these people that are pissed off that it ain't Sami. What do you think?
Again, they have the Elimination Chamber in Montreal, so that'll be, you have to think, a major part of the story going into Mania. You keep talking, I mean, everything you're saying makes sense to me, and you're convincing me that that's exactly, not that I have to be convinced, but that it's the right way to go. But again, Owens has to be in this somehow too, I think. And potentially Jey Uso.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. You do have to somehow get Cody tied into this. Going back to what you said before, I love the way Roman Reigns addressed Cody here. He made it realize, I'm not putting this guy down. I'm not going to say this guy's nothing.
Yeah.
The exact opposite. You're going to want to see this. It's going to build now for months and months, but this has to happen in the middle of it. I guess you're going to have to get Cody tied into it, I would think, unless they somehow try to keep that completely separate. And how do you do that? And then what's Cody doing for the next few months?
Well,
because Cody's set up for Gunther, but not for now, because you don't want to burn that out just quickly before Mania.
Right.
What do you do with him?
Cody just needs to come back, look good, and look ahead to the title until after Montreal. And in Montreal, could it be that Owens is taken out by the dastardly heels early in the show so that he cannot support his friend? And then Cody does. But then does that give a backlash from the live crowd who wants to see Fatso do good stuff instead of the next champion?
I guess that's part of the issue. If you're going to get Cody tied into this, you may not be able to do that in Montreal. That may have to happen somewhere else.
But if it's done right, a guy saving the life of Montreal's favorite son ought to get over in Montreal. Wouldn't you think?
The American Nightmare is Canadian royalty. I think that will work.
Yeah, and old fucking Steen, he was offended one time when I said we're in Toronto. You should come out carrying the Canadian flag, and Richards can come out carrying the American flag because the title of the show was Border Wars. And that's cheesy. Yeah, it didn't work for your boy Bret Hart and his family, did it at all? You fucking fat piece. Well, nevertheless,
Jesus.
Well, every time I watch him in the ring, I'm amazed that he is as good a worker as he is, despite being a fat, disreputable looking fucking bliffit. But every time I think about having to interact with him personally, a bliffit, you know what a bliffit is? Bliffit's 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. But having to deal with him personally on a personal basis. But anyway, some way or another, Cody and Sami have to be close or okay with each other, and Sami's got to bless and endorse Cody's path to the top, or some of the people will riot. But at the same time, and not right now while they're negotiating a TV rights deal and a potential sale of the company and trying to hotshot everything, are they going to give Sami Zayn a run with the WWE title by beating the guy that they haven't had do a job in the past 2 years just because he's hot right now? And he could be hot for the rest of his life. Who knows? But he still ain't going to fucking beat him at WrestleMania or anywhere else.
I mean, the strategy of starting the show with a little taste of it and then building towards the end segment, which will be no wrestling but this promo, it works because it's good and people are interested in where it's going, but you could probably fill up the show with better stuff.
Yeah, and what's going to happen when they don't have Roman and Heyman? Because, Roman is already a bit part-time, and let's say in a year or 2 years or whenever it happens. And my God, look at Heyman. What must his cholesterol level be at this point?
Is he on the neck machine?
Well, no. Are you kidding? They'd have to custom make one that size to fit that neck. But the point is, he's not going to be around forever. They don't have a lot of people that can carry interview segments as main event of a program. What's going to happen when they have to go back to giving people a main event of an actual wrestling match and expect them to give a shit about it? Because why do you care about these matches? The WWF fans come to see the entrances, see the personalities, maybe one of the live interviews every once in a while, see a fucking dramatic in-ring reading, and then they go get popcorn whenever most of the matches take place, unless it's something they're really interested in. So, and the company has done this to itself in being too much of a glossy, glitzy entertainment spectacular. They have lost complete track of what the fucking steak tastes like versus how far you can smell it and how far you can hear the sizzle.
Well, that's Smackdown, and this is your show.
Rolls on. Okay, we finally got here. We are not just at the 10 o'clock hour. We're at 9:57 p.m. They wanted to make sure they got this in. Here comes the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and his entrance, the music, the suit, the hugs, the shaking hands, the adoration of the adoring public. And right at the top of the 10 o'clock hour, for people that may be switching around or whatever, they've snagged him or trying to snag him. At 9 o'clock it was Brock Lesnar. Now it's Cody Rhodes. You can see where they're slotting Cody. And he starts off by, saying that, hey, things have been glossed over a little bit. I might not be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I've got a title shot, but Sami's got him at the Elimination Chamber, so I might be at WrestleMania challenging Sami Zayn, and that got a little reaction. But remember, what did I say 3 days ago? We did the last program. I said between now and then, Cody and Sami better be real good friends, and Sami needs to be fully supportive of whatever Cody does, and vice versa. And here you go. He said, I wish my friend Sami Zayn the best of luck. May the best man win. So they're planting that seed and where we go from here. And then suddenly Heyman interrupts on the microphone. No music. Cody didn't have to stand there like a dipshit with some guy's music plays and he walks out. It's just Paul and the microphone. And in any era, in the late 1800s, Paul Heyman would have been the most successful snake oil salesman in America. In the 30s, he would have been the barker for the most successful carnival. He's a fucking genius.
You're not even talking about him as a performer. You're just talking about his ability.
Well, yeah. And honestly, from that point on, from the time that he started talking and came to the ring, I didn't make a goddamn note. I didn't jot anything down. I didn't stop looking at the facial expressions and the reactions that each one of them had to stuff that the other would say, and Paul's trembling hand every once in a while. And it was incredible because, again, Heyman, the cunning linguist, the verbal master, and Cody, this is his story, and he loves the personal aspect. And that was the point, the go after all of 17 minutes, which flew by. You didn't want to, if people were glued, I would assume, to what they were hearing because it all made sense and it was fucking perfectly done. And there was so much truth in it that you couldn't visually or verbally discern where the truth ended and the work began. It's a masterpiece of a confrontation without being a confrontation. They didn't have to be mad in this instance. And I mean, and you can't really describe it without just reading a verbatim transcript. But the whole thing was about even Paul's affection for Dusty Rhodes, and that Cody had to shake his hand and thank him for helping the Rhodes family when they were down. And that time that Dusty went to work for ECW, he didn't do it for love of the game. And then they just weaved back and forth and finally told the story when you thought that Paul, as he usually does, had gotten a verbal zinger in at the end. Cody had the perfect final words for a baby face. When he backed Paul up in the corner, he made him shake his hand and grabbed it and gave it the oomph every once in a while and said, everybody's giving me a lot of crap because I'm just trying to win a wrestling championship. But if you want to make it personal, then that's what we will do. And it won't be personal between me and you. It'll be personal between me and Roman because you've made it personal. I mean, they shot this well. These guys, if they did hit their marks, if they walked through it enough to have marks, which I'm pretty sure they did because it was staged pretty well too. There wasn't any wandering around. Then these guys ought to be on Broadway. They hit their fucking marks. But I can't honestly think of the last time that I saw or heard a promo segment on a wrestling show that had as much realness to it. Maybe Punk's one or two when he came back, the one or two best ones when he had first come back. Other ones escape me at this point. You can talk about good promos, but that people could believe because so much of it was legitimate and you couldn't tell where that stopped and working started. And just the fact that they were able to do this flawlessly for 17 minutes.
Punk and Kingston, Punk and MJF, those are two examples I could think of. But more than anything, I think this was an example of the kind of stuff Cody wished he could have done in AEW. But he didn't have the people to work with that could do it.
Yeah.
Because the emotion...
That's probably what he saw in MJF, because he was the verbal master that he thought could play a part like this in something with him.
Give Heyman credit. Give them both credit. They both cried, it appeared, during the promo.
Well, I think anybody that ever worked for Paul will tell you he can make that face, and you can even hear some snot snurfle, but if you look, there's not a lot of tears running down the cheeks. But
I know it's not going to happen. I'll say that a second time. I know it's not going to happen, but I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist. And I've got money to spare. I'll pay everyone involved if we get Brandy out there to cut a promo on Heyman.
Oh, come on.
That's
now.
all I want. I think I asked for it years ago. Brandy and Heyman, let's go.
No.
I think that this was a captivating segment. And I had recently been talking to you on air and off about the lack of people in wrestling that you could just stop and watch what they do and you don't get bored and think, oh, there's not a wrestling match. For all the faults of pretending the camera's not there at times, the Bloodline shit has been impeccable.
Yeah.
You want to see what's going to happen. Sometimes it's so slow moving and you just deal with it. And then something happens, the most minor thing, and it's a big thing. Couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Both guys were completely in the moment. The fans didn't chant boring. It went on a long time. They didn't chant boring.
Nobody said what?
Nothing.
That not even a wise ass little segment of 4 people in section E trying to start it. Nothing.
In AEW, it was always said to me, and I think other people have reported this, or at least said that they heard the rumor, Cody really wasn't interested in doing anything that touched back to his dad. I don't know how to put that exactly, and I don't know how strict or firm it was, but it was really about Cody establishing Cody. He didn't want everything to be about Dusty. They did it here, and it worked, and it was perfect, and it was the perfect way and the perfect time to do it. We've got months until Mania. This is one of those examples right here, unless it's something like he runs in Montreal to help Sami because Jay shows up and turns on Sami and helps Roman or whatever. Unless it's something like that, don't make it physical. Just let everyone talk everyone into this match. This was brilliant. I don't know about the best segment of the history of Raw, as you said a few times, but
well,
it's up there on the list.
Modern memory, maybe.
This is the kind of stuff that Cody was trying to force himself to do in AEW when it wasn't working. This is the stuff he's wanted to do, and with Heyman, he had the perfect guy to do it with. This was great.
The perfect dance partner. You know what? When the inevitable happens in the bidding war of 2024 and jolly old Saint Nick signs up MJF, can we find out that MJF is really the illegitimate son of Paul Heyman and potentially a lady of the evening from the Bronx?
From the Bronx, really?
And MJF's, well, whatever the fuck.
You think Paul was driving from Scarsdale into the Bronx to pick up hookers?
Well, there you go.
Oh, that is what you think. Okay.
They don't let hookers in Scarsdale. They don't have fucking social standing. So MJF's current parents actually adopted him when Heyman forced the hooker to leave him out in a basket on a doorstep.
I'm going to agree with everyone else. You're out of touch. No more booking for you. You're done.
Let's talk about Smackdown a little bit before we go. This was February the 10th. It's fresh in our minds. That's why I'm looking at my notes so I can remember what I saw. Did you see Heyman's Al Capone suit?
I think I've seen him wear it before, but yes.
Oh my, it was so bright and beautiful. If he had a carnation in his lapel and a fucking violin case, he'd be Frank fucking Nitti. He's such a heat-getting personality. I'm captivated by Paul's work these days. So Sammy's not here tonight, is what he's telling the people. He's in the ring doing a promo. And the people are not happy about that. And Paul knocks Sami a bit and then segues to Cody. And said, Dusty raised an idiot for a son. It couldn't be more personal, playing on the, you're making it personal line. And the promo that he did made the title match important, and the title match important. They've still got 2 belts. It looks like he needs to work on his cardio to be able to stand there under those 2 belts that long. Though I feel bad for him. I'm sure it's making his back bad. But as Paul's, getting through the whole promo, all of a sudden Sami in a hoodie slides into the ring behind him and they do the fucking slowly I turn deal. And Paul's great. And they come face to face, and Sami's like, no, I'm not going to hurt you. And, he basically asked questions about the loyalty of the rest of the group and blah, blah, blah. But he hugged Paul and told him to tell Roman he doesn't need to worry about Cody, just worry about him. So they're trying to build the anticipation that Sami is going to be the one to take the title from Roman at Elimination Chamber before Cody gets to him at WrestleMania. And maybe it was just me, and I'll ask you what you thought in 1 second, but I'm just going to say maybe it was just after seeing Paul and Cody on Raw and that brilliance and that promo that this one just was it was better than everybody else can do, but it wasn't great for these guys. What do you think?
I mean, it wasn't Cody and Paul Heyman, but nothing's going to be. That was a very unique, even if they did something again next week, it wouldn't be the same. It was a very unique segment. I mean, it wasn't that, but I think it was fine. You had to get Sami in the mix. You had to show that he was there early on if you wanted people to stay around at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, they had to do it. I'm saying the execution of it, or maybe there wasn't a lot of zip. They could have maybe got to the point a little quicker. It wasn't the stand up and fucking give them the standing ovation like Heyman and Sami and Cody and these people have been getting lately. It was still better than everybody else. And I understood they need to impart the information. Maybe now I'm just being hard on them because they've been so good.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was a fine opening segment, I think, for SmackDown.
Or maybe it was just the rest of the program put me in such a bad mood.
This was probably the highlight of SmackDown, now that I think about it. I was going to say they returned to things later on, but this was really all you needed to see.
But see, that's the thing. We're going, it's downhill from here or uphill. Or have we ever established whether if it's going to get into the muck and mire, we're going uphill or downhill?
I think we established it, but you've constantly
stubbornly refused. Yeah. Now they're in the back again. And Jimmy tells Heyman that he can't get a hold of Jay, and Paul tells Jimmy that he was out there in the ring a few minutes ago being held hostage by a Canadian psychopath. Where was the family? Where were you? And he was, I was looking for Jay. Jay's not here, man. So they're building up. Is Jay going to show up and support Jimmy for the tag team title match against Ricochet and Braun Strongman? And they still don't know. And now the time has come for the match. And which, by the way, this was by far the match with the most interest in the whole program. But for storyline reasons, it had to go on. I don't know if it had to go on this early because there's a lot of shit afterwards. But so Jimmy enters the arena alone, and then Jay appears in the arena at the top of the bleachers and comes through the crowd. And I'm thinking, again, I know this is great, but there's a huge babyface pop from the fans for a heel showing up to defend and beat the babyfaces in a tag team title match. So we've got here this way. But 50 minutes, 50 into this program, the bell rings on match number 3 after 2 3-minute squash matches and some talk. So, again, this was, with a couple of bobbles, probably one of the better matches you've ever seen Braun Strongman in, because this is it's the right thing to do with him. Keep him on the apron most of the time because he can't sell. Give him a little buddy partner that is flashy and everybody will like and want to pull for as an underdog. And he makes the big comebacks and shit. And the Usos, they work hard and they've got talent. I think I would take them better visually if they had tights and boots instead of T-shirts, pleather pants, and tennis shoes. But I know that's the gimmick of the young folks these days. They tried to build a big hot tag for Ricochet to Braun, and they still didn't get it because even though they milked it so the people would understand it, when there was at the point that the tag was made, there was no way for the heels to prevent the tag, obviously and visually to the people before it happened. Therefore, you didn't get to maximum pop out of it. It was a foregone conclusion before it happened. Brown made the comeback. The Usos took back over. Usos super kicked Brown into Ricochet that tagged himself back in, hit a press off the top and a couple of moonsaults. They had umpteen kicks and a couple more tags. Finally, Ricochet did the swanton off Brown's shoulders like last week, but slightly less stiff than the last one, which looked like it could have paralyzed Imperium. And Jay pulled Ricochet off the cover. And so Brown went around to do the choo-choo. At least they don't play the choo-choo train noise anymore, thankfully. But
Vince
Jay
plays it when he chases the paralegals around his desk.
Well, yeah, around the desk.
Choo-choo, I'm coming.
Choo-choo. And then he says, open the airplane hangar and let my plane land. And then Jay ducked Brown and he choo-chooed over the desk. And he was out of the way. And then Ricochet had to potato somebody, so he hit a potato shooting star off the top rope on Jimmy. But then he bounced off of Jimmy, and Jay came off the top rope and safely splashed Ricochet. 1, 2, 3, and that was a heck of a looking exchange. Because Ricochet, he hit that poor fucking Uso with that shooting star with full weight, but he bounced beautifully and got into position wonderfully. So that was a pretty good match. What'd you think?
Pretty good match. I mean, the story was about the Usos, and they kind of got past it so you could focus on the match pretty early, and good match. I mean, I'm not the biggest Braun Strowman fan, but I like the way they've used him, at least with Ricochet.
When he's in a tag match, you see less of him actually doing shit. And he does try to work the people. He's got, he's trying to make faces. It's just the problem is the one he's got to begin with doesn't lend itself to any. Well, nevertheless. So then after the break, the Usos were in the back where Jay now has told Jimmy that he doesn't know whether he's in or out of the bloodline. He's always going to be Jimmy's brother, but he doesn't know whether he's in or out of the bloodline. He doesn't know. We found out, you could see just barely, that Heyman is lurking like a fucking combination of Alfred Hitchcock and the Fernwood Flasher behind a pillar in the corner of the building, and he hears that. And then when Jay walks off and Jimmy stand there, then Paul comes up behind Jimmy and says, "Hey, was that your brother?" "Yeah." "Did he say anything?" "No, he didn't say anything. He just left." So now Paul knows. Oh, see the intrigue here. Now we've established at this point that even the most intelligent people like a Paul Heyman in this world of WWE and wrestling in general in modern times will have personal conversations and exchange information about criminal activity and or secretive behavior with a handheld television camera 5 feet in front of their face. But boy, these guys are all doing this stuff well. I'll say that for it. But back in the parking lot where all the action takes place at the wrestling shows. It used to be true back in the 80s, but nevertheless, Jay and Sami are back in the parking lot. Sammy's in the hoodie. They're in between the semi-trucks. They can't be seen.
Except by the cameraman who's right.
Except by the cameraman 5 feet in front of their face. Broadcasting this to a national television audience. Sami tells him Roman's not going to let you forget about what you did, the way you stood up for me at the Rumble. You know that. I'm 8 days away from getting rid of Roman, Jay. I don't want you to have to go down with the ship. And Sami says, I acknowledge you. And they fist bump. And that you can tell that means something to Jay, that he got acknowledged. And then we get the main event interview segment is... Did you have any comments on that? I wasn't trying to skip ahead of you.
No, actually, after...
Is this where you went to sleep?
No, after Sami and Jay had their thing in the back where they ran into each other, I decided to leave the room, and I never came back in the room. And then, unfortunately, someone erased my DVR recordings of Smackdown, so I didn't get to see the rest of the show. I don't know what the main event was.
That may have been your internet service provider in your walls.
No, I don't think it was that.
They don't want you to see this. Well, nevertheless, you didn't miss much because the main event Bloodline segment was basically a cliffhanger. It lasted about 60 seconds, and it was Paul Heyman in the back with Jimmy Uso. And he's got his phone, and he says, "I'm just on the phone with Roman. I'd put him on with you, but no reception in this room here." He says, this is his instructions. Next week, instead of going to Montreal, he wants an on-television perspective. So we need the Usos to stay home and watch it on TV. And Paul says, because sometimes you see things on TV that you don't see live. And then he walks, and then Jimmy's there going, oh boy, maybe he knows something.
You said next week. Is the pay-per-view next week?
Yes, it is.
Holy shit. Wow, that was fast.
And also,
wow,
I don't think the Usos can go to Canada, can they?
I think you figured out what they're doing, actually. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's right. Well, there you go.
And I mean, boy,
that's how you can defeat Roman Reigns. Get him in another country.
Those Canadians are strict. If the WWE, a $6 billion company, can't get the goddamn hottest story they've had in years all into Canada because of a DUI, those Canadians are sticking to their fucking guns, pal.
Well, it may have been more than one DUI.
Well, any kind of DUI. $6 billion ought to get you. Hey, we'll wrap this motherfucker up in cellophane and fucking carry him by hand to the building and then dump him back across the border when we're done with him. Here's $500,000. But anyway, that was Smackdown is what that was. So we have had the first match we saw for about 4 minutes, and the second match we saw under 2 minutes, but now we're at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. And remember, that's a place where we got to get some good programming in, right? You know, we got to have a star in the ring or a star on camera. We've talked about that, these top of the hour. So they come to the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and they're in the back with Baron von Corbin. And I'm just ready to, my God, they fucked up. They're running behind, or the timing is off, or whatever. It's 9 o'clock. And just as I say that, the girl interviewer had asked him a question about JBL firing him, and he started to open his mouth, and she said, wait a minute, something important is happening in the arena. They go,
Important.
And they go to, and there's Sami Zayn in the ring in a hoodie with a microphone. And then right at the top of 9 o'clock, I'm okay, they meant to do this, but fucking Corbin, Jesus Christ, man. Just pack your bags and walk on out the door. Just turn around now. You're not welcome anymore. So the people were on their feet for Sami Zayn. And they're excited, and he announces that he needs to talk to Cody Rhodes, and boom, the people pop, and he said, please indulge me and come out. Brian, what was it I said about a week or so ago that between now and WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn, as far as the people are concerned, need to be the best of friends and supporting one another and pulling for one another. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know who won that pony? They play the Cody music and the fans pop for him. There wasn't like boos because, oh gosh, it's him and Sami. They did the whoa for his entrance. Everybody's got a whoa in their music now. And the fans chanted Cody. Both of these guys are baby faces. And the story was, and they did, again, this was the segment on Raw. If you needed to see anything, you needed to see this. Everything else leave a bad taste in your mouth. But this was tremendous. And Sami Zayn's story was that he's heard Cody say that it's looking more and more like he's going to face Sami Zayn at WrestleMania instead of Roman Reigns. And Sami wanted to know, did he believe that? And Cody said he did mean it, that Sami could be and most likely will be his opponent at WrestleMania. And the fans are chanting, this is awesome, this is awesome. And then Cody starts giving him the talk. respectfully, does it matter what I believe? Do you believe that you can beat him? And Sami's like, well, do you want the truth? And then now the fans are singing the ole, 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 ole. That's a deep cut. He hadn't been Generico in 10 years now or whatever.
They were in New York.
Well, there you go. And Sami said the truth is, I don't know. And again, this is like a Jerry Jarrett angle because it's wrestling. And with guys that can talk and pull it off. Because he's saying what, you would be thinking. I don't know. I've seen Roman up close, and the group, they always find a way. And he's as good as he says he is. He's in God mode. And I've been watching guys bigger and stronger than me going down. And Sami was great here. He's doubting his chances. And he says, I believe I'm capable of beating him. I believe I'm capable of becoming champion. I'm worthy of it. Yes, I believe that. But will I? I don't know. And then now Cody is put in a position of being big brother. This is brilliant. He's giving him a pep talk. Everybody here, all the fans, know that you can. Montreal knows you can. There's dissension in the bloodline because of you. Cracks in the armor because of you. And then Cody looks at him and says, I intend to finish my story. You need to finish yours. I don't want to see you on Raw next Monday. I'd rather see you at WrestleMania. Again, they're friends now. There's not going to be a backlash because they obviously have realized what was going to happen, and they're working this to the point where whatever happens, it seems like the people are going to be in support of Cody supporting Sami, Sami supporting Cody, Cody and Sami supporting each other. And I bet you the first one there to shake Cody Rhodes' hand will be Sami Zayn. And that's the way you do it. Uh-huh.
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, they used Cody in the perfect way. They didn't use him too much. Unfortunately, the rest of the show suffers because this is the one segment that's good, and the ratings are now bearing that out too, that more people want to see this kind of stuff. It's weird because Cody, in a lot of ways, is so similar to Cody in AEW, and it didn't work. And so much of it felt forced. Nothing right now feels forced.
And, and I'm sure a lot of the creative team is going to, the best ratings of the show was for a promo. So let's do more promo. There's the problem. The whole show is a promo now. It's the promo with the people that can talk, that the people are interested in hearing talk, not just because it's a promo. And the matches could not even be possibly any less important. And there's where you get in trouble because you can't have guys talking for 3 hours, even though they do already. And the problem is they've got 20% of the amount of people watching this they did 15 years ago when everybody wasn't talking all the fucking time. And I'm a fucking manager. If it wasn't for promos, I'd have been out of business. But you can't do it for fucking 2 hours and 40 minutes out of a 3-hour program. Anyway, now it's time for our main event of the evening, the interview. And again, and boy, this sure was they had one match with Gunther and Moss that was actually worth watching, and 10 minutes of an interview where the guy didn't even have to speak for 5 minutes of it because the crowd was so loud, and that was the best thing on the show. So that's why I say that not only a weird go-home program, but also may have devalued the fucking sale price. But here comes Sami, and in Montreal, what an ovation. And they're singing, I don't even know. Now his tune has a whoa, 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 whoa that they can sing. And then ole, 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 ole.
Well, that's his old song. That was his old song.
Well, yes, but I know but the new song, I don't know the tune, but there's more whoa in his new song. And
no, he doesn't have a new song. His new song is the old song.
Is that the old song?
Yeah.
Well, I love the old song. Whatever song he's got, I'm not talking about a new song, old song. I mean, Ole, Ole, Ole was what they sang for El Generico. That's what I'm saying. That's the old thing they used to do for him long ago. And now they're playing his song that's got the whoa that they can sing along also. Whatever. There's a lot of whoa and oh and ole, ole, oh. And everybody's got a oh. And Seth Rollins with the oh, whoa, or whatever.
Where's Andrade? Ole, ole, oh.
I don't know but nevertheless, Sami comes out and he's over, and he doesn't have to speak for minutes. I think it was like 5 minutes. And they chanted, "You deserve it," and Sami, and ole, 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 ole. And Sami was great because on his face, he went through all the emotions. He was touched. He was laughing. He was serious. He had a tear coming down his cheek. And without saying a word, this was the 5 best minutes of the fucking show. Sami Zayn standing in the ring, the crowd coming all over themselves, and the emotion showing on Sami's face that was actually genuine. And then all he had to do is do the promo, which he did. You know, WrestleMania, everybody thinks is the big show, but the Elimination Chamber is once in a lifetime. And he spoke French and got a big pop because they're bi up there. Everybody in Montreal is bi, you know.
Bilingual.
They speak both the English and the French. And then he just said it's tomorrow night. It's Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn and the entire city of Montreal. And Roman, you're going down. Oh, big pop and more singing and more music. I mean, it was perfect. That was and somebody tweeted, yeah, said that's a Cornette said that El Generico would never be a star. And I was right. He never was. Sami Zayn is, but El Generico never was. This is the fucking guy. And you remember the gimmick, Brian, so you can testify to what has been the best part of the Bloodline Sami issue. Has it been the matches, or has it been the verbal interplay between Sami and the rest of the group?
Verbal interplay and facial expressions.
Well, El Generico was a mute. And he didn't have facial expressions because he had a mask on. And he was named after a fucking rib to be a generic luchador when he was really a ginger Muslim from Montreal. He refused to speak even when his promotion was bought by a television company, and didn't want to lose the gimmick. And what was my assessment of the guy underneath? He can work his ass off. He can sell, especially as a babyface, and he's remarkably, deceptively strong for his puny physique. And I never knew whether he could talk or not because he refused to do it. But now, 10 years later, with no mask, a different name, and actually speaking in 2 different languages instead of none, he's one of the biggest stars in the business. Who could have possibly predicted? But that was the go home. I mean, that's the only thing really that sold the pay-per-view on this program was Sami. But like I said, at that point, maybe they figured if they haven't already decided to get it, they're not gonna. What do you think?
You know, the other thing is, I'm looking through the notes here. Other than Asuka versus Liv and everyone that ran into that, no one else on this show other than Sami is even on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to give him the night before to rest up.
Build up the matches on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Can we get to the main event? That's what everybody wants to hear about.
Let's do it.
For the WWE title, and they did another great package, and then Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. And did you like the way they sent Roman out first and they attributed it to the champion's prerogative? He came out first so that Sami Zayn would have to stare into he came out first because they knew that they could milk the fucking crowd, Sami coming out second for 10 minutes, and they did. This was great. They milked his music so the crowd would start singing. And then when they played the music, the crowd was singing that song, and they sang it forever. And the crowd was ballistic, you know, from the time Sami comes in the arena, gets in the ring. The introductions. Why do they have a 25-year-old female ring announcer? I miss Howard Finkel. I even miss Gary Capetta.
I miss announcers that didn't have to do this. The universal, like that. They all do that now.
Especially 25-year-old girls.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if they're good, they're good.
It doesn't.
Does she need a mustache? We get Emi Sakura. Will that make you happy?
It would make me happier if she had a mustache, yes. And a long beard down to her crotch. Just something that a bunch of fucking old bastards smoking cigars around ringside from the athletic commission. Let's make it look like the good old days.
Yeah, everyone's dressed like Burt Sugar.
Yeah, Burt Randolph Sugar to do the weigh-in. But anyway, it went minutes. Fuck you, Roman, the chants and the singing. And neither guy got in a hurry, and they let the crowd do the work. And then I got a tickle that spread through my whole body. It started down low and then continued to grow. When they locked up, the crowd popped on the lockup and booed Roman Reigns' headlock. That was what the crowds were like in the 70s. Not even just the main event. If they had ever seen the babyface before, if they'd ever seen him on TV or he'd ever appeared live, and it was the second match on the card or whatever, when they locked up, the people would cheer, and whoever took control, they would boo or cheer. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but the people of Montreal, God bless you all. And they took their time at the first because the crowd was popping on headlocks and elbows. And then Sami hit one of his flip dives to take Roman off his feet out on the floor, and the place fucking blew up. And then Roman took over, as he should have, and the theme of the match again was he's abusing and belittling the smaller underdog babyface, and Sami Zayn can sell almost like Ricky Morton. That's one that you saw, not only the body language, but the facial expressions. He looks like he's toast. And he sells like a fucking crash test dummy, but not in a out of control way. But that's Zayn's biggest deal as a babyface wrestler, is he can sell. And Reigns is such a great heel, and he fucked with the crowd, and he taunted them and taunted Sami and took his time, talked trash to Sami's wife, threw him out in front of her and toyed with him in front of her.
Hey, just in general, at this point and at various other points, you didn't feel at all like they slowed it down too much? Like there was too much of the time of Roman doing the talking at various points?
In the finish, I'll get to that, because I'm still a bug about that in the finish, when the finish takes for fucking ever and the clock's running on a referee bump or whatever. But here, no, because they were working for those people, and it was a special reaction they were getting, and for those people, that was the pace. Now, I can see where it may have gotten a little either slow, or we've seen it for the television viewer. But I think for the atmosphere that they were in, that kind of crowd and them being so interested in everything, you can kind of take the time to just, Roman walks around and has that look on his face, and you can see it on the big screens, even if you can't see it in the giant arena from the back row. But I think it was good for that. Now, if they'd been in Los Angeles and the people had been going, okay, we got to make dinner late, then they needed to speed up at that point. I'll agree with you there. And I like the stuff with the wife, because she actually had a game face on and looked like she was concerned.
She looked like, if you had to guess if she was smartened up or not, she probably is, obviously. She definitely is. But you could lose yourself in thinking she wasn't.
Exactly. So she did a good job. And then suddenly Sami got a hope spot with a clothesline, and he started to come back and clothesline Roman over the top, and they had a fight on the floor, and Sami runs over and kisses his wife, goes the top, Roman stops him, goes for a superplex, but Sami fights out and hits that sunset flip power bomb and gets a 2 count. And then Roman will stop him again. And he gets a couple more 2 counts, but it was, again, they put this together so wonderfully that each time Sami had a flurry of hope, it was a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then they did that point where Sami leapfrogged the spear and schoolboyed him, got a 2 count, and Sami Northern Lights him, or Exploder as they call it these days, over into the turnbuckles and hit a Superman punch and a haluva kick. And Michael Cole, do you believe in miracles? See, he's a hockey fan. But they 2 7/8 on that, and it was a big fucking pop. And I wrote here, these false finishes have been great. Heyman I bet Heyman enjoys it when he can put a match together with guys that could actually do more than their 3 big moves, like the Brocks and the Lashleys and the high impact stuff he has to do. Anyway, Roman would keep trying to go for shit, but he would miss something or foil himself. He speared the barricade instead of Sami, and Sami got him back in, hit a blue thunder bomb for a 2 count. But it wasn't like that Sami was at any point manhandling Roman Reigns. He was taking advantage of situations and hitting these things, but Roman would still physically, take over, impose his will, whatever. And then they crushed the first referee in the corner, Rudy Charles. They call him what is his real name? Dan Engler. He was Rudy Charles in TNA. Great kid, but they crush him in the corner. And then Sami hits the kick and covers Roman, but there's no referee to count. And the fans get to count 3 and past, for him. And then Jimmy Uso appears and gives Sami 3 super kicks and a splash off the top and puts Roman on top and jumps out. Second referee comes in. I'm like, okay, but 1, 2 count, big pop. I'm like, okay, there's still life left in the old ginger after all. And they get back in a match, and Sami's looking good, and Uso comes back up to the apron again. Sami nails him off, turns into a spear. Roman covers him. Another 2 count, another big pop. Pat Patterson has come back. They're really pulling out all the stops. And then Roman starts slapping Sami around and trash talking him and goes for the Superman and takes out the second referee with the Superman punch, which, by the way, there had been a little foreshadow of that when it looked like either Roman thought he was going for it or the referee thought he was going for it one time before, and they almost did it. But nevertheless, then Roman hit the Superman on Sami, and everybody was down. And this is where I start, Brian, I see what you were saying earlier. I apply it to here. Now, our first referee's been down for a while. And honestly, I thought, and would find out later on I was mistaken, that referee number 1, Rudy Charles, a.k.a. Dan Engler, had been taken from ringside because he was injured. And now the second referee ran down, but he got Superman punched, so now the referee's out of the picture again. This is where reasonably the clock is ticking. Reasonably. And in most cases, if you don't get your shit done pretty quick, then people start going, oh, come on, bullshit. However, in this situation, the story has been so good. Everybody else has been so into it. They wanted to see what was happening. So this is one of those exceptions that proves the rule, in that I thought it was going way too slow, but the people still stuck with it. But at this point, Heyman gets a chair and gives it to Roman. But then Jay suddenly appears, Jey Uso, in the middle of the ring. in between Sami, who's down, and Roman, who's got a chair in his hand, is going to kill him. And Roman and Jay go back and forth. Roman hands Jay the chair, and Jay don't want to take it, but finally he does. And then as Roman walks over to trash talk Sami, it's a tease by the positioning, if nothing else, and this was very well done, that he might hit Roman in the back with the chair, like Sami did, and you heard the people coming up. And I wrote at that time, of course, one of these referees would be up by now, or another one in, but people are at least interested in this. So Roman finally takes the chair back and pie faces Jey Uso a couple times, like, what the fuck's the matter with you? You don't want to do what I tell you to do. And Roman, at the same time as he turns around to go back to Sami, and Jey Uso is coming behind Roman from being pie faced because he's going to bow up, Sami runs, Roman ducks, and Sami spears Jey Uso. And at that point, Roman grabs the chair, or has the chair, and hits Sami like 6 fucking times across the back with the chair, and then hits a spear. And that's where I was. The first referee, Rudy Charles, a.k.a. Dan Engler, he comes back in. He's had to have been down at ringside for 10 minutes. People been in car wrecks. They've had heart attacks and got back to their feet in quicker time. That, again, nobody cared because this was so good and everybody was into it, and it's Montreal, and for all the reasons we've talked about. But goddamn, they've already run another. Couldn't they have run another one at least down where it didn't call attention to the fact that this guy regained consciousness after 10 minutes at the exact wrong moment? Just the little things.
I'll tell you what, on that topic, keep this in mind as you finish your review. Where did Jey Uso go?
Well, that's another thing. We didn't see a lot of Jey after that, did we?
He just vanished.
He just vanished.
Where did he go? Where did he come from, and where did he go?
Where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? I searched the world over and I thought I'd found true love. You met another and you was gone.
We were so close to the end of the show without a singing segment, but
that's why I had to get it in. So anyway, at that point, boom, the match is over. 1, 2, 3. Jimmy Uso, then at Roman's direction, gets on Sami Zayn, starts beating him up. Jey has disappeared. We still don't know what's going to... The fallout from this will be, it's a fluid situation. And then suddenly, Kevin Owens music. And the other Montrealer. Montrealian? Montrealite?
Quebecer.
Well, what if you live in fucking Montreal and not just in... Well, I guess it's the whole province.
That's the heart of Quebec, I get. Well, Quebec City, we may argue, but Montreal.
Well, it seems like Quebec City would have... Well, nevertheless, we're splitting hairs now.
They call you Carpentier.
Yes, here comes a noted Carpentier, Kevin Owens. And he drops Jimmy in the aisleway, and he tackles Roman in the ring, and he hits a stunner on him. And then here comes Jimmy, and he stunners Jimmy. And he powerbombs Jimmy through the desk, and he gets a chair, and he goes after Roman Reigns. And as Roman is down, he's got the chair. Here comes Paul Heyman from behind. They are unloading all the stops to make these people as happy as possible that Sami Zayn did not win this title, but they still saw everything they wanted to see. That Paul is going to get involved for the first time in recent memory. And he did funny comedy punches. And I'm saying, I know and I know somebody probably told him to do it. Either that or, again, Paul and I, we share a lot of common traits, but Paul could never work. Paul Heyman could never physically work. He couldn't take bumps. His offense looked like shit. That's the one thing he never got about the wrestling business. And there's no shame in that. But I always went under the assumption that I should look like I'm trying as hard as I possibly can to hurt this person. As a manager, I'm talking about. And I was ineffectual because I'm weak and he's a big professional wrestler. but I should still look like I'm trying to hit him hard. And then I get the shit kicked out of me. Paul's doing the comedy stuff like, wah, 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 wah. Nobody would really do that, even somebody that was a big pussy. So does it take the people out of the moment? Couldn't he have come with one attempted broad arm across the back like, I'll save the day, whack, and fucking Owens just do the slowly I turned, and then Paul shit himself? I'm asking you.
If you're going to get Paul to be physical, I think you save it for when when the wise man would absolutely have to jump in, and if he did, he would probably try with all of his might with one punch or something, not whatever those little girl punch. I hate that. I don't want to be sexist there, but
no, that is punches. Sexist because girls do hit harder than he was hitting. And it wasn't like he was trying to work and couldn't. He was obviously doing the funny punches. So I guess somebody got in the locker room, got a kick out of it. I don't fucking know. But nevertheless, Owens no-sold it. And dropped the chair and looked at him and booted him and gave Paul Heyman a stone cold stunner. And bless his little heart. You know, there's several times I've taken stunners over the last, since it became a thing. Took some from Brandon Baxter down in Memphis and a time or two on independent shows 15 years ago or whatever. I can't drop to both knees either because I have two bad knees. And it requires you to do that, or you can do like Paul did and modify it and go down to your left knee while you're still on your right foot so you can push yourself back up, which is what I would do. And that saves the shock on your knees. But then Paul stood up and started waving his arms in the air and started falling over sideways. And somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds after he had taken the stunner is when he landed on the mat, and he didn't even make a noise. How did he fall?
You know what that was?
Even in that manner, without making a noise on the mat.
Who was Paul's favorite manager growing up?
Albano?
How did Albano sell?
Oh, shit.
Think about it. That's exactly what Heyman did.
Oh, boy. Well, boy, howdy. He's taken his bump for this decade. Paul, from me to you, I swore him off. What was it? 5 years ago now. And you should too, if that's what you got in you. But anyway, then Kevin Owens was in the middle of the ring. Sami was on one side. Roman was on the other side in the corners. And Kevin steps out of the way and lets Sami charge across with the haluva kick on Roman. And Owens walks out because they still haven't hugged and kissed and reconciled. And I'm being a picky prick about as a wrestling finish, it would have gotten panned years ago because people would have seen through the referee being down too long and et cetera, et cetera. But as a sports entertainment finish, and people accept these things now, this was fucking great. They saw everything they needed to see. Sami was in every way protected while Roman still did not lose. But they got a good match out of it and a really good finish with a bunch of twists and turns before they did it, not like when they just cheated people out of everything with Brock and Lashley. So I again, that's what's been paying the bills and carrying the ball over there at the WWE, the Bloodline and Sami. And now that we have established that Sami and Cody are great friends and bosom buddies, and Cody was pulling for Sami, I'm sure Sami will return the favor and pull for Cody, won't he?
Cody will get Owens and Sami to be friends again.
There you go. There you go. And we're off to see the Wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. There you go. That was Elimination Chamber.
Let me ask you a few things about the main event and the finish of the main event, because it's been somewhat controversial online, various fans with various things. Is there a fucking plane going by? I guess so, or a spy balloon, I'm not sure. But
did you piss off the Chinese again?
Quite about that. Any issue at all, any issue with Sami not going over in Montreal, considering that crowd and everything?
Oh, good God, no.
Because a lot of people, I mean, again, it's online and it's wrestling fans, but we're talking about reactions to things. A lot of people lost their shit over the fact that Sami has not won this. Didn't win the title and didn't win in Montreal.
If they ever thought he was going to, then they don't know how the business works and they're insane to begin with. They weren't going to, no. In some other situation, I'm not saying they wouldn't have, they put the belt on Kofi Kingston for fuck's sake at one point. But no, not when they had the most dominant heel of modern times champion that it has been a champion for the past 3 years or whatever the fuck it's been, and is heading toward a showdown with the guy that they have handpicked to be the big star of the entire company, not just the shows in Montreal, Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns was not going to do it. He wasn't going to have dinner before dinner. He wasn't going to do a job before he does job. And again, if this was the territory days, if this had been Lawler in Memphis or Dusty in Tampa or Vern in Minneapolis or whatever the case, and Montreal was the biggest city or one of the biggest cities in the territory, and you had a guy that got over like that and got that reaction, then you make the moment. And then you put the belt on the guy in his hometown in the big crowd when that's one of the 4 or 5 cities you run. But they're talking about the entire world. And as much as everybody does like Sami, fans, he's over with all the fans everywhere from Maine to Spain on a choo-choo train. But he doesn't get the same reaction in every other town he gets in Montreal, obviously. And they weren't going to screw up well over a year of planning and preparation to install the guy they want to be the top babyface for the entire world because Sami got over in this way and has an especially hot crowd in his hometown. So that would have been a great moment in Montreal and a great memory in Montreal. And it would have screwed up the plans they have going forward for months for the entire rest of the fucking world. Does that make any sense now?
There are people who think that WWE should have changed plans, called an audible, whatever it is, in recognition, I guess, for how over and how special a moment it is right now for Sami in Montreal.
Well, those people would be idiots, and I don't want them in charge of my fucking investment accounts.
Did you think they were going to do a Dusty finish when the first referee went down and the second one came in?
No, by the Dusty finish, you mean somehow Sami wins and then it's nullified.
Correct. The people get the big pop and the big celebration, and then a few minutes later, they get deflated with the news.
No, because that would still have required Sami Zayn to pin Roman Reigns for any type of referee, one on duty, off duty, part-time, whatever the case, to count 3, and that wasn't ever going to happen. That can't happen. Sami can lay on top of him all day long with no referee counting, which is what they did and what they got. But nobody will count Roman Reigns' shoulders to the mat before WrestleMania. I don't know how many different ways I can say this to people. That's what they want to do for the benefit of the entire company and in front of the entire world going forward with the plans they have. And they're correct in those plans. And yes, they would have loved it if Sami'd won the belt in Montreal, and the people watching at home would have got a kick out of it too. But then, where do you go from there? If you beat him right back, then the people just go, eh. And then Roman drops it to Sami, he's already dropped it, or drops it to Cody, he's already dropped it to Sami. So either Cody would have to beat Sami, or Sami would have to hold it for a fucking year. And does anybody think that Sami Zayn needs to be the WWF champion for a fucking year? No. So,
do you think the idea of Sami and Kevin Owens versus the Usos at WrestleMania, do you think they can get there with an intriguing story as they continue things? And what do you think about the idea that all members of the Bloodline could lose their belts on the same night? Or part of the same 2 nights, I guess.
Well, in the same weekend or part of the same group of festivities. That does sound like, but at the same time, I don't know whether I wouldn't even be happy with and Cody reuniting the former friends and getting them to shake hands. That's a great idea that you just mentioned. Could it be Jimmy and Solo against Kevin and Sami? Because we might still not know what Jay is going to do or not do, and it doesn't have to be for the title because it's goddamn personal issue.
Any disappointment at all in the way they use Jey Uso here? And the way things are still up in the air with him?
Well, him disappearing after... Why did he jump in the ring if he wasn't going to do anything to anybody? What was his intent? And why did he get his mind changed? I mean, he got speared, but then he's gone forever. So I don't know. I like the involvement in that we didn't know what he was going to do, but then when he didn't actually do anything, I'm not sure that, and then you never saw him again, that's kind of a lazy way out, now that you put a spotlight on it.
Well, that was WWE Elimination Chamber.
9 o'clock. The hour came. It was time for Cody Rhodes. Because you can tell they've obviously got a lot of faith in him. They're giving him the prime spots on the programs coming up at the top of the hour, et cetera, et cetera. He's doing a wonderful job with them. Did you see the sign in the crowd on his way to the ring? Roman's worst nightmare, Nigtmare. And the crowd was chanting Cody, Cody, and they're in Canada. So if this crowd was going to, fire back at him for Sami not winning, they would have taken some of it out on Cody. So he gets in the ring. As soon as he says his first words, so there's Paul Heyman on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children. Oh, that's the other guy. Paul had both belts and a neck brace on, and not even the fucking Andy Kaufman kind of, soft neck brace. He had the cervical collar on, which I don't know how they found a cervical neck collar that was like a tube straight up and down, because Paul doesn't really have an indentation for a neck there. It just goes from ears to fucking shoulders. So he kind of looked like the juggernaut.
I feel like you get revenge for every comment he made on TBS in like 1988 and 89. Every time you talk about it.
I do nothing but put Paul Heyman over and praise him for his verbal ability and that he's the best promo and one of the greatest minds in wrestling today. And it's not my fault that the natural thing to also talk about is his completely repulsive physical deterioration, because he remains 3 or 4 years younger than me. And I don't want people to forget that. But anyway, Heyman's on the screen. And Cody said, well, where are you, Paul? Why don't you come out here? No, I'm backstage. And I was mauled Saturday night and subjected to the miserable Canadian healthcare system. But I've faced as close as I'm willing to be to face. You can't beat Roman Reigns. And then Paul, it's a mind game, as you will see that they're playing. It's masterful with Cody, where Paul tells Cody the story. What's going to happen if the impossible happens? And he did it much better than I'm going to do it here. I'm just summarizing. But if the impossible happens, what will your life be like? Roman Reigns has me, the wise man, but you're going to be an indentured servant. Life on the road, 200 days a year. Defending the titles, 50 days of charities and red carpets. I don't know if I believe everything else. I believe 200 days a year on the road, 30 days overseas, 20 days promoting big events. I'm not sure about 50 days of charity and red carpet, but nevertheless. And when he gets home, he's going to, if you got 60 days left over, you're going to be on Spike calls or Skype or whatever they call it, he said, and Zooms and meetings. Do you want that life for your wife and child? But don't worry, Cody, on those cold winter nights when you're away, Roman Reigns will be there to keep your wife warm. Because it's going to be open mic night, bitch. No, I've just realized, there you go. There's the baby face. The War Games 5-on-5. Roman, Solo, Usos, and Heyman versus Cody, Sami, Kevin, and Brandy. Just put Brandy in there.
Maybe she could bring back Awesome Kong and Mel. She could bring back the Nightmare Collective.
I forgot they shaved that girl's head and never showed her again. Mel, here's our girl Mel. I wonder how her hair's doing now. It's been a few years.
But he didn't say that. He said that he was specifically not saying that Roman Reigns will be there keeping his wife warm. He'll be there.
Well, true. He said, what was it? How did he phrase it? No, that's not. Roman Reigns is a very happily married man, but I'm not. I thought he had kids. Did he? What?
Doesn't mean you have a wife.
Well, but is he mad at his wife, or what did he?
Well, I don't know if he's married any longer.
Did he go to one of those Michael Jackson clinics to have his children? He's talked about it. I'm not talking about the man's personal life and family on the air now. He's done interviews saying, when I had children, then things changed for me and blah, blah, blah. So he's acknowledged he's had children. He's never been married. Did he have a test tube situation going on? What the fuck? We need to find out more about that.
I believe he's married and divorced. Asked and answered.
All right. Well, there you go. See, that was easy, but we never heard about the wife. Whatever
conspiracy theory you came up with.
We never hear about the wife. So I was wondering if it was Debbie Rowe, perhaps?
Debbie Rowe?
Remember Debbie Rowe? She was one of Michael Jackson's surrogate mothers. She made some money. Paul dresses well. He's made some money. Maybe he's...
I thought that was the woman who worked the door at the ECW arena, Debbie Rowe. But anyway.
No, that was Row Your Boat. So, anyway, Paul says that, Cody, your WrestleMania dreams will become your own personal nightmare. And then Cody just dismisses Paul and turns to the camera and said, you're great, Roman. You're great. Don't send this man to me again. Are you a warrior or are you an errand boy, Kabuki? No, that was Dusty. You're the greatest champion of all time, Roman, but I have to finish the story, and I'm going to beat you at WrestleMania. So he just disregarded Paul's mind game attempt, and he's spaking. He's spaking. He's spitty. You don't want me to spit in your face, Lance Russell? Tojo said that one time. He's speaking directly to Roman when he's... This whole thing is just falling apart.
No, I agree, though. He's spaking.
He's spaking directly. He certainly did. Right to him.
I love that we are now one step closer to Heyman being out there cutting a promo, and all of a sudden we hear, "Who told you it was open mic night, bitch?" And here comes Brandy. It'll be the greatest thing ever. This is great. You know what? Cody's great. I've said it before. It's the difference between the stuff he's doing here and the stuff in AEW. At times in AEW, it felt so disingenuous just because of the word selection at times. It's working a lot better here.
Yeah.
And when he looked into the microphone and you look in his eyes, that's all you need to do. Just let him do that.
Cody is coming up with this material, obviously, but there's people here, qualified people that are allowed to produce things. And in AEW, Cody was doing his own shit with nobody to say, well, change the to a and, just tweak it a little bit. And he didn't have people surrounding him that were going to give performances up to the level of Heyman's or Sami's and he didn't have the television production crew that was going to be able to shoot this whole thing and put it together in this fashion. And we've said that Cody is perfectly at home in a sports entertainment big setting with other people that can hold up their end of the thing. And he was, floating around and almost an anomaly in AEW. But there you have again, Cody and Paul. So we got a good interview at the start and a good interview at 9:00. And pretty much cockeye in between. Go ahead.
What is there until WrestleMania? 6 weeks?
Somewhere around there.
What do? I mean, do you have him and Roman get physical before Mania, or do you keep it where even if they face off, there's nothing physical? It's just a battle of words so that people can't wait to see that. I can't talk. So people can't wait to see the fucking match. What do you think they should do?
You know, in over 6 weeks, couldn't they do one of each? Because, you know, a lot of times something is diminished by having physical angles, and that's something Shitstain used to do. If you had 6 weeks for a pay-per-view, he'd have the guys in the goddamn feature matches fighting and beating each other up back and forth so much to the point that finally you didn't want to see the match because you'd already seen all this shit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But if it's the right idea and if it's executed correctly, I don't see any reason in the world that shortly before, you know, the go home period, last week or 10 days, that Roman couldn't. I'm not talking about coming out there and just slaughtering Cody and just leaving him laying and bashing him with chairs, all this stuff they've been doing, but some physical thing, and not leave him laying there flat on his face, but to hurt him physically about the same amount as his pride is hurt at the same time, to just give him that extra and get a little shot in on him. And also, I think they could certainly have some type of verbal exchange with Paul involved and Cody, and that's going to be, I would think, if they have the material, and I don't see why they wouldn't, that could be great too. But you don't want to see them face to face every week. You don't want to see them physical every week, or even more than once, I don't think. And, you know, just space it out. 1 week, something happens. Next week or two, summarize it with packages and flesh it out with the individuals, but they're not together. And then billboard what's going to happen next week or whatever. When it was last week that this happened, but next week so-and-so is going to be back to whatever the case. That's not a long period of time to do something like this. And in the meantime, you've got shit going on in the periphery that we already talked about with the Usos and Kevin and Sammy and Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
You think this?
Speaking of them,
this could be a long-term thing, and if Roman's really going to take any time off, if that ever happens, or if this is the extent of the time off schedule that we're going to get, and Heyman has more time, Cody's a perfect Heyman project. Not that Cody needs someone to coach him, although at times he does, maybe with promos, but long-term, a Cody versus Heyman feud, post-Bloodline, that could be good down the road because it's just about promos. It's about emotion. You can get it out of those guys.
And that could be like the Heenan and Hogan arrangement, where Heenan was always finding somebody to try to take Hogan down.
It's like everything that Paul grew up with. You had 3 heel managers who never took bumps, and they always had a cast of characters coming in, and the credibility was on the manager until those people made it. And usually the manager's credibility was enough. I believe Paul is one of the people that believes that a lot of those Bob Backlund sellouts should be attributed to Lou Albano versus Bob Backlund, as opposed to Bob Backlund versus Samoan number 3 or whatever it may be. So, I don't know.
They actually did that, by the way, folks. A Samoan number 3 one time. Brian's not kidding.
Samu. That was when Samu first started, and they didn't want to call him Samu for whatever reason.
So Samoan number 3 was better.
Here's Alpha, Sika, and Samoan number 3.
So we got 10 minutes left on the air over here.
Oh, come on.
Well, are you there?
Stop with these bad ones.
I'm sorry. It's rare that I have a bad one, mon frere. But anyway, with 10 minutes left on the air.
Move on with the show, I dare.
Au contraire. 10 minutes left on the program. Jimmy, and I wish there was 10 minutes left on this program. There might not be 10 minutes left on this program. Jimmy Uso comes to the ring. And Jimmy, of the bunch of them, I believe, is not the natural verbal linguist. But he
did all right.
He's trying, and he did a good job.
Yeah, it seems a little more real sometimes when the person isn't so fluid at it.
Well, and that's he's conflicted, is what he is. And I know you're torn, my brother. When you hurt, I hurt. I'll always be here for you, like I need you to be here right now for me. And while he's talking, suddenly, and I know Sammy's made a lot of money. Certainly he can at least afford another hoodie, or is he going to do regular laundry, I wonder?
Well, he probably only wears it when he does his vigilante stuff at the wrestling shows, so that's not
That's
too
true.
often.
He got it from Charles Bronson. So Sammy in the hoodie appears in the ring, and Jimmy turns around and sees him, and no, I'm not here to fight. And there's the face down there because Jimmy hates him. But he's telling Jimmy that, hey, remember when we were dogs? We were dogs, and then we were cats. And then we were ponies. We were a little horse. But anyway, he said, we were dogs. And you were the first one that trusted me, because remember, that was the original part of the story. It was Jimmy that liked him. Jay didn't trust him. And then they flip-flopped that. It was great. But you were the one that trusted me. You made me an honorary Oos. But at the Rumble, you didn't think twice about taking me down, and that hurt me, right? And then Jimmy fired up then. And that was because he had some fucking emotion here too. Blame me. You made the choice with the chair. I did what I had to do. And Sammy on the other part, he's so genuine with the way that he's delivering this, to where you can buy it, where he says family doesn't make you prove something every single week. And while they're talking to each other, Jay appears in the balcony. And the people popped and he was shot. And I don't know whether maybe they jumped the gun on it, or maybe whether, but Sammy didn't notice Jay at that point up there, even though the people knew he was there. As Sammy tells Jimmy that he's going to make sure that Roman Reigns goes down. And see, that's the thing. Cody wants to win the title that they took away from his daddy in the garden. But now he's already told Heyman, I just want to win a wrestling title, and you keep making this personal. So now it's personal for Cody. And Owens has come out and said, when he blew Sammy off, I'm dedicating myself to taking the bloodline down. I've been doing it by myself. I'll keep doing it by myself. And now Sammy says here, I'm going to make sure that Roman Reigns goes down, but the Usos don't have to go down with the ship. He's motivated for there are 3 top baby faces from 3 different motivations that have history with each other, or in the case of Owens and Zayn, or no history really to speak of, since Cody's been gone so long, and Cody's the outsider. He could be the impartial party, the mediator. But you're starting to assemble like Dusty used to do. The top group of baby faces were their own people, but they had common goals. And anyway, Usos don't have to go down with the ship. And then Sammy looks up in the bleachers and sees Jay, and Jimmy decks him and gets on him. And Jay comes down to ringside more slowly than like he's trying to make a save. And Jimmy turns and looks at him like, what are you going to do? And that's when Sammy comes and hits the kick from behind. And then Solo hits the ring, so Sammy has to powder, and Jay is still standing there looking at everybody like, what the fuck? So for not having the big dog actually on the program, as long as the big dog still exists, these people are doing his will. This story is still featured, and all of it is developing wonderfully. What do you think?
The big dog is the main cog in the wheel, because if you took him out of the wheel, everything else would fall apart. It's all based around him, his bloodline, his championships. This was still a great segment in terms of not much happened, but it was good. You know, it held you. You wanted to see if something would happen. I don't know how many more times Sammy could jump in the ring like the vigilante and then, hold on, wait a minute, hold on, give me a second, let me talk.
Yeah.
Can't see that anymore.
Not trying to keep interrupting this network television program completely unauthorized basis, but give me 10 minutes and I'll explain.
That's right. Please, security, understand. I just need a few moments on the mic. Thank you.
That's what John Wilkes Booth said at Ford's Theater. Security, please understand. I just need a few moments.
Of course, he also wore the same hoodie week after week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great angle. I'm still intrigued where they're going. I always wonder, because it's so good and it leads to things like what happens with me and you, where, you see it, other fans too. All you do is talk about the various scenarios that could happen. It's one of the best wrestling angles of modern times because of that. Fans are intrigued where it's going. We don't know exactly where this is going to end. Even if Cody wins the belt, that's a big moment for Cody. That's a major moment. That doesn't mean it's the end of the whole Bloodline thing.
Right.
So I love this. I think this is great stuff. But because of Heyman's involvement, and I like Paul Heyman, but I always wonder, is there an ending? Or is it kind of, we have a great idea. We don't know where we're going to go with it. Let's just go with it week after week. Let's just come in and go with it week after week. Who knows where it's going to end? We don't know where it's going to end. That's the only thing I wonder. Is there an actual ending, or will it just fade into something? It'll be interesting to see how this goes, but
I can fall somewhere in the middle, because I never agreed with the old Vince McMahon philosophy back in the 80s of booking a year in advance for your main event at WrestleMania, but not the actual angles and specific finish one foot in front of the other and all the details, because then you're taking spontaneity out of the thing when you're actually in the middle of doing it. And conversely, as you mentioned, Paulie is noted for sometimes starting things and just riding the wave, and suddenly you're still riding and the wave is out from under you without really the ending.
Tommy Dreamer was pile driving Beulah, and then she somehow got pregnant with Tommy Dreamer's baby, and then she announced that she's a lesbian and she wasn't pregnant anymore.
Like that.
Yes.
But hopefully there'll be a happy medium where they have agreed on, at some point, a general idea of the climax of the story, so everybody goes home happy from the theater, but at the same time they're willing to extend or open things up to interpretation if things come along, which they have done with Sami. When this was originally, from what we were told, supposed to be a 3-week thing or whatever on TV, but it got over because they did it well, so they kept doing it.
And I said before about, you talked about roster depth, and they have 2 different brands. But really, what's the main story on both shows? It's the Bloodline on both shows. I mean, a lot of these guys are now appearing on both shows. I mean, it's great. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They ain't that deep. I would say and if the networks have a problem, maybe it will be offset by the fact the ratings go up when they're allowed to use the entire talent pool. And then we move over to Smackdown. They put 15,000 people in Washington, D.C. for this broadcast, which is amazing. Well, they said 15,000. Well, it had to be around 12 or 13 because it was full and it's a big building.
Hey, if you were a WWE fan and for whatever reason both shows were in your town within a very short period of time and you could only pick one, which one would you go to, Raw or SmackDown?
SmackDown. Because at least, again, this fucking Raw 3 hours and it goes on and on. At least SmackDown, you would have a bigger chance of seeing the Bloodline and you'd get to the fucking meat of the matter quicker. But that's like choosing the gas chamber or the electric chair at this point, isn't it? But then again, as I mentioned on the open of Raw, when they just had Jimmy Uso and Solo, here it's the Bloodline entrance. Roman, Heyman, Solo, Jimmy, only Jay was missing, and it's just huge that way. It has a whole different fucking look and feel, and the people are into it. Again, the girl ring announcer trying to gargle razor blades like Vince at WrestleMania fucking 3. I don't know.
They all do that now. I don't know why.
I'm afraid she's going to give herself some kind of accidental hysterectomy doing that over and over every week.
That.
Well, see, you've been doing that mothership thing for so long. They've told you you can never have children now as a result of that.
What do you mean? I've had kids and
I mean, you yourself. Suzanne had the kids. You didn't have any. You fucking strained your ovaries with that whole fucking thing you've been doing.
Well, this is Smackdown we're talking about.
All right. Well, we're going back. We're going to acknowledge Roman. Get that over with. And then as soon as Roman says, acknowledge me, Cody music hits. And he gets a big pop. They pop for Roman because he's a star, but they pop for Cody because they see him as a star. And he comes out and they do the whoa and Cody. And Cody, very eloquent and the mellifluous tones that just roll off his tongue. He tells Roman he's there to have a conversation man to man. There's no reason for the rest of your entourage unless you feel the need for them or whatever. And so Roman there, now they're playing mind games with each other. Roman tells Heyman, wise man, leave us. Wise man, leave us. And you know what? It would have been great to see Heyman if he could have been a 60s character actor on F Troop as one of the fucking
F Troop,
as one of the Hikawi Indians, like the medicine man for the Hikawis. That would have been classic. And the feathers. Well, nevertheless, anyway, so Cody's there and boom, face to face. And Roman says, wise man, leave us. And Paul says, I'll leave. Nope, Solo goes too. And that was a perfect way to get, because now there was no need for them to gang jump Cody. They do it all the time. This already has interest. They're doing it differently. So that's a reason to get them out of the way. And then they start fucking with each other mentally. Roman lays the belts in front of Cody. So what do you want to talk about? And Cody puts Roman Reigns over, but hey, climbing mountains is my thing. Said I wouldn't get over Stardust. They said 10,000 people wouldn't come to see me and my little buddy's indie show, which was very fucking an interesting line that may not have gotten over in a previous administration. But the point he made is that beating Roman Reigns, not impossible for him. And Cody was getting chance again. The people are into that. And then Roman was off the charts here, just with the naturalness and the inflation. You believe this. He mocks Cody. He said, well, you ever won that belt? You ever even competed for one of these? You ever main evented WrestleMania? I done did all of that. And I've been groomed by my father and your father too. He did the Dusty impression. They put Dusty over and how close they were. And then he said, you know what Dusty always said about you? Nothing. Like you did not exist. I know you miss him. I miss him too. If there's anything he didn't teach you, I will. What a fucking promo. And the zingers from both of them were getting oohs from the people because they were listening to what was being said back and forth. How long has it been since you heard the old ooh from a zinger, from a heel or babyface? They might pop if they hear the word shit. I'll kick that shit out of her. I'll shove this up your ass. But when you say, and your mother, I, fucking filleted her or whatever. Ooh. So anyway, and Roman offers the handshake after he's just decimated Cody and, emasculated him. And then Cody, he started beating around the bush to where the people, I don't think, actually knew where he was going. I wasn't sure. But then he balled it up and finished well with, if all the things that you have said, Roman, are true, then that means it is a necessity that I beat you at WrestleMania. For all those reasons, blah, 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 blah. And may the best man win, and grabs and shakes the hand that now Roman is like, And that was a nice piece of business. What'd you think?
I thought this was excellent. Can't really say too much bad about it. I'll say one really good thing. A lot of the times in AEW, Cody came across as utterly pretentious on the mic.
We said that.
And he admitted that he would go and, what was the word that,
workshop.
Workshop.
Yes.
His promos. not saying he's not doing that now, but it's very interesting that a lot of the ways he says things and a lot of the specific wording, things that did not seem natural to him in AEW, it's working a lot better here in this program, on these shows, and the fans are reacting to it in a way that they did not in AEW after the first few months.
It's a different presentation. And as I said earlier, you know, a lot of this is talking and acting, and they want the guys to be actors. Well, Cody's a pretty decent actor as a wrestler or for a wrestler. And over in the other company, there were a few good talkers and a few good wrestlers, but there weren't a lot of decent actors. So there was nobody for him to do this. And when you've got somebody doing something that nobody else is doing, in a style that nobody else is doing it on that program, it kind of comes off as odd. But this is his wheelhouse, as they say in the Merchant Marine or wherever. Rhea Ripley beat Liv Morgan. Hopefully the Liv Morgan being invincible is over. And then they continued the Bloodline deal, and there'll be an ultimatum here at the end, but they continued the Bloodline issue through the show where basically Jimmy is telling Roman, hey, Jay he needs some more time. And he needs time. He needs time. I'm running out of patience. Not with Jay, with you. You know, go bring him back in the fucking fold. But in the Bloodline locker room, Jimmy now tells Roman that Jay said that he needs more time again. Roman, he said that? And Jimmy says, no, actually, he said, leave him the hell alone. And the people popped. They're playing it to the arena. And Roman's pissed, and this didn't start happening until Sami came around. So that's the problem. We got Sami. So you go out there with Solo tonight and get rid of Sami, and Jay will come home. And Jimmy runs out to do that. And then Roman tells Heyman, says, hey, Jay's got 1 week, or I'm not going to blame Sami. I'm going to blame Jimmy. So there's some more intrigue. And by the way, before our main event, we found out, Brian, I know you're excited about this. If you get the new WWE video game that apparently they come out every year on time and on schedule, you can now be Bugs Bunny.
You mean Bad Bunny?
Yeah, whatever.
That's a big deal. He's a major star. The idea that you have a major star in this game, you may get a few people that want to check it out.
But why do I want to be Bugs Bunny as a wrestler? Isn't that like if there was a baseball video game and I went and threw out a first pitch at the Cincinnati Reds game, would anybody want to play as Jim Cornette in a baseball video game?
Depends on what your moveset is.
What about if my moveset is to strike out and drop the ball?
Do you think you can make a throw to home plate from the pitcher's mound if you had the first pitch at a Cincinnati Reds game?
No, I tried to throw out the first pitch at goddamn, what was that? We went to a minor league ball game here several years ago, did an appearance. Jim Ross was there up in it's the outside Cincinnati. It was the, Jesus Christ, what's the name of their team? It's right over there in Erlanger. The Erlanger Einsteins. I don't know, but anyway.
It ain't that.
We were all I didn't get it to the plate. I got it like somewhere to the left, I think it was, of the plate. Way left, like 10 or 12 feet. All right, anyway. Speaking of left of the plate. We got the main event, Solo versus Sami. And the people were up into this jump start. It was hot. Sami was cooking. The people love him. And then suddenly Uso distracts and Solo posts Sami 3 times in a row. I'm not sure that the 3 times in a row was necessary. And then threw him over the fucking rail into the crowd, and they go to the break. So even a main event that people want to see, a great, 2 minutes to the break. But when they came back, they were getting the heat on Sami. He got some, fire-ups and hope spots. Solo'd hit the Samoan drop and went for the ass to face. And Sami got another comeback and a 2 count and another one. And Uso was freaking out at that point. And then as they're cooking, Sami goes for the kick, and Jimmy jumps up and pulls Solo out of the corner, so Sami misses the kick and gets hung up and flummoxed in the ropes and turns around, and Solo hit the Samoan spike 1, 2, 3. And so again, you know, their TV finishes are not exactly the goddamn most intricate pieces of Eddie Graham style craftsmanship ever. They just kind of get out of it. But the heels went for some more heat, got the chair, did the trash talking, put the chair on the neck, and Solo's going to go for the ass in the face, but Jimmy wants to give the ass in the face. But as Jimmy is arguing with Solo about he wanted to give the ass to face, Sami is recovered and throws the chair at Solo and beans him with it and hits Uso with the fucking kick and then bailed out on the floor before they could get a hold of him. And Roman Reigns is not happy or sleepy or dumpy or Doc or any of the other fucking various dwarves. And that was Smackdown.
Surprised by the finish. Didn't expect Sami to lose to Solo here.
Well, it didn't hurt him a bit.
It didn't, but I'm still surprised by it.
I would have liked it to have been a little bit more creative than, you know, but that's the thing. They on Raw, they'll give you a 30-minute opening match just because they've got to kill 3 hours and they need to start somewhere. On SmackDown, if you get a match as a main event instead of an interview, it's still kind of short to the point, and they'll do a get out of it finish rather than something that really takes you on a fucking ride. But that's the ride we took, Brian Last. I'll have you know. We're not going to bore the people like the WWE tried to bore the people with this entire 3-hour thing. At this point, there's two important, really converging situations here. The Bloodline and the babyfaces, who are Owens, Sami, and Cody. And John Cena now that he's back and he's a bigger star than anybody in the business. So that's what we're going to run through, because if you've seen that, you've seen all of it. And this was an important piece of the puzzle in the Bloodline situation. And we opened with, remember Roman Reigns on SmackDown said, hey, he's giving Jimmy a fucking deadline. He told that to Heyman. And now there's Heyman telling Jimmy and Solo at the top of the program. One more time, Roman said, solve the Sami Zayn problem. And you didn't do it Friday. Well, he's here tonight, so you better do it. Jimmy, you solve Sami with or without Jay, and Solo, you get rid of Owens. And then they walk off, and he calls Roman Reigns on the phone. But if he ever said what Roman said on the phone, we missed it. Nevertheless, I liked for the first time maybe in a long time, I liked the first 20 minutes of Raw a lot because they got to the point. Fairly, they laid that introduction down on the interview. Then they had Owens against Solo. And they had a match that actually went longer than 90 seconds to the break and then blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a great match, but they were trying. I will say that in a compliment sandwich, yes, I like the fact that they started off with some action and it's an angle match and we can get into it. The match, they did a jump start. They went to the floor. Solo posted Owens twice, and then the referee rang the bell to start the match. Remember when a jump start would happen and it was obvious that I'm not talking about a behind the back jumping attack. I'm talking about when the guys just start fighting by mutual agreement. Here we go. The referee used to ring the bell right then because that was a way to start the fucking thing when everybody's up and bing, ding, ding, and here we go. And now they get in a fight and the heel hurts the babyface. And then the referee rings the bell to start the match. And then what the fuck? And then they got to start over again. Am I just being too cranky?
We just complained about this I think it was in AEW actually previously, where there was a whole big thing on the floor. Maybe it was a Moxley match or something, and then they got in the ring, and then the bell rang and the match started. Everyone does that now. They think it's a standard thing because of, was it Brett and Austin? Whatever it was,
I don't know.
Triggered people to think this is now a standard thing.
But anyway, so the match goes on, but here's the problem is they stopped Owens so soon, and Solo is he's a punch and kick guy, and it was a lot of the segment where they had some time, 5 minutes for or 7 minutes or whatever before they went to the break, was the heel just kicking and stomping the baby face and put a chin lock on him. And finally Owens fired up, and Jimmy was down to ringside at that point at Owens' little flurry and distracted him. And Owens got the ass in the face in the ring. And then he rolls out and he gets the ass in the face by the barricade. And then they go to the break. But when they come back, there's more heat on Owens. And then finally Solo missed the charge into the turnbuckle. And Owens makes a comeback and hits the senton and gets a cover. And 1, 2, and Uso saves. DQ. Ding, ding, ding. And okay, again, even if you're going to do the DQ, can we just do some dipsy doodles first? It just seems like I think we mentioned this on the Experience, talking about some things on SmackDown. They do it like all of a sudden we're finished with the match. Let's do the get out of it finish. Well, you can always do a get out of it finish that people don't take as a get out of it finish if you take them a few places first, but maybe they didn't have time. Anyway, the heels go to put Owens through the desk, and here's Sami, and he makes a big save and beats up both heels and runs them off, and the people are fucking loving it. They're loving Sami. And there's Owens down in the corner, and Sami offers his hand, not only a handshake, but to like help him up. And Owens looks at him and slides right under the bottom rope and limps off. And so, still we don't get them together, but that was the first 20 minutes of the program compared to often, except if it is the entire full Bloodline or Cody, we get a long promo and a tag team match playa that we don't really give a shit about. What do you think about this one?
I mean, I can't really add too much to what you thought about the match. I like Solo's presence more than his in-ring stuff, and that's not meant as anything other than I still think he has a ways to go in the ring. He's still relatively new. I like the storyline stuff better than the match, and
yeah,
it's almost like what the WWF was in the 80s, where the overall story and things like this means more than whatever the hell's happening in the ring. That's secondary, and it's so good here that
it's more pronounced. It's more pronounced now than it was in the 80s because at least they hadn't had previous 2 decades to tell people, yeah, the match is when they go for a minute and a half and we're going to go to break. Don't worry about the match. Just get to the gaga.
My only thought was not knowing where the rest of the show would go and obviously not knowing where the Bloodline angle or series of angles will go. I don't think they can, whatever they're going to do with Sami and Owens, they got to do it maybe next week or soon. I don't know how many more weeks of I'm going to help you, but we're not friends.
Yeah,
they could each do. I think they've kind of exhausted them.
Well, then let's go to the interaction between those two in the back, which followed all of this, where Sami comes up to Kevin and says, I don't know what else to say. None of us can do it alone. We've got the same objective. The only way to take the Bloodline down is to do it together. He said, I was in the Bloodline, I know. And then Owen says, I know. I remember. In this building, because they kicked the shit out of him in that building. I've been fighting him for 8 months, and maybe together we could, but I don't want to do this with you. So go back to Roman. Maybe he'll take you back. Leave me out of it. And I'm getting what you're saying is that they got to do something because Owens is now starting to come off as overly petulant over this thing in a wrestling context where people get back together for flimsy reasons. And actually, it's very true to life because Owens will fucking fester on something and beat that dead horse down to the ground. But I think we're seeing a clue later on. We'll get to that here in a second. But I think
we said it a few weeks ago.
We said it, but now we're seeing a clue that it's going to happen. And speaking of which, also, if you notice, another reason for Cena introducing Cody would be because nobody knew Cody was in the building at that point. He had not been on the show.
Oh, everyone saw that bus. That bus is like 8 blocks long.
Well, but you know what?
It's like the size of a tree in your yard, that bus.
Hey, now he's going to go request a bigger bus. Now that you said that. But no, now we know Cody's in the building. It's in the back of our mind. And there the main event is Sami Zayn versus Jimmy. And remember, the ultimatum from Roman Reigns is, Jimmy, if you don't solve the Sami Zayn problem, I'm going to blame you. And this is the main event of the 3-hour television program, by the way. And they they started this thing with 15 minutes or less maybe left on the air. They got into a fight, went to the floor, and he backdropped Uso over the rail in 15 seconds, and they went to the break. On the main event of the match that they've been milking all night that has the most interest. And when they come back from the break, Uso's beating the shit out of Sami, but Sami starts an immediate comeback. And by the way, he needs to wear a shirt. Of all the people that would benefit from wrestling in a T-shirt, Sami Zayn is one of them. But he makes comeback, crossbody, 2 count. And then Solo acts like he's going to interfere. The referee kicks Solo out. Sami hits a blue thunder bomb, gets a 2 count, and they go to the break again. That's only been 2 minutes since we just came back. They must have gone long, got fucking behind, got overloaded, whatever. But when they came back 6 minutes on the air, it's 6 minutes till 11 o'clock Eastern. We've literally only seen 2 minutes of this fucking match on the screen. And when they come back within a minute, Jay is coming down the bleachers from, the entryway, the front door of the arena or whatever, instead of the locker room. And when that is happening, Sami hits a sunset flip on Jimmy, 1, 2, 3. So the match was literally 3 fucking minutes on the air. And then Jimmy and Jay stare at each other. Jay's standing on the announce desk and Jimmy's in the ring. And then Jay gets in the ring and they face each other off. And then Jay grabs Jimmy's shirt and they look at each other forever. And then Jay gets out and goes over to the aisleway where Sami is. And he finally looks at Sami and finally hugs Sami, gives him the big hug. And they put the number 1 fingers up and the fans are chanting, holy shit, holy shit.
Did you hear what he said to him? He said, I trust you.
He said, yeah. He said, I trust you. I thought he said, I chose you, or I choose you.
Is that what he said? I thought he said, I trust you.
I thought he said, I choose you.
Huh.
But nevertheless,
it wasn't mic'd. I mean, that's the point. I mean, you kind of hear something.
it was the microphone on the camera, the floor camera that was close to him. But nevertheless, we'll go back and check the tape on that. But then all of a sudden, Jay super kicks Sami. And for once, the foot right under the jaw, Sami Zayn sold it like $1 million. It looked great.
You're not even doing it justice in terms of the crowd. The crowd exploded when he hugged Sami.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were all over it.
It was a monster pop. It was like an all-time pop. It sounded incredible. And then they gave it enough time.
Yeah.
It died down. And then the second one, it's not necessarily a pop, but the big reaction from that same crowd for the turn.
And boom, and they thought, and I love the way they did this because they gave them what they thought they were getting, and then they gave them the other things. They got both, and you got the reaction of both. But then they throw Sami in, and they start killing him, and then, wouldn't you know who won the pony? Well, we know he's in the building. Here comes Cody. And Cody hits the ring to protect Sami Zayn, and then, of course, my DVR froze because they took so long milking that. But I assume that they didn't beat Cody up and leave him laying like they would have over on the other channel.
What did you think about the idea it was Cody? And obviously they set it up and it should be Cody, but did you think for a moment it would be Owens?
No, because that would be stupid. Because then, basically with what Owens has been saying, he was just by what the Usos did, he was proven right. Everything he's been saying to Sami, they'll turn on you. They'll turn on, they'll do all that. Well, he did. It's got to be the neutral party, the Switzerland, the peacemaker. Cody
Super
Rhodes,
Switzerland. Isn't that what he called himself?
Super Switzerland. Cody Rhodes, the silver-tongued devil, is going to figure out some way to talk these two former friends back together. And then everything is in alignment. You've got the family, the bloodline against the fucking babyface Avengers.
Well, there it is, and that was Monday Night Raw.
Well, and that was our main event wrestling match, folks. That's right. We had a five-way, a six-man tag, the Vikings in a tag match, and Charlotte and Shotzi. And that was the program for wrestling, because the main event on SmackDown is always the interview segment. And in this instance, the interview segment did not deliver as a main event, but the goddamn Afterbirth did. The Usos come to the ring. And the question on everybody's mind, the burning question is, why, Jay? Why? And Jay beat around the bush for a little while. I think he was trying to get his feelings out. But the story was, what would you do? This is family. He's my blood, my twin. I blame Sami for all this. All he had to do was fall in line. But he didn't. We fixed him. But now our problem is Cody Rhodes. And the reason why I think that they were running long is because they hadn't even finished Cody Rhodes' last name and his music hit. Here's the thing. They only had 4, maybe 3 minutes left on the air. And as soon as they mentioned Cody's name, they didn't even get the Rhodes out, like I said, and the music starts. And he comes down the aisle and stops about halfway and says, hey, instead of talking about me, why don't you talk to me? The fans don't want to see us talk. They want to see us fight. This is a common offer here lately. And as soon as he starts taking off his jacket and tie, Sami hits the ring from behind. And he goes to town on the Usos. And then Cody hits and joins. And for the next 90 seconds to 2 minutes, it was the best part of the program. They had a fight. They went all over ringside, out in the people, blah, blah, blah. The people were into it. The action was exciting. There was shit going on. And finally, the Usos powder, and Cody raises Sami's hand. And that's, as we mentioned, they're not booing Cody. There's been no backlash whatsoever. The way they've handled this, they're cheering Sami, they're cheering Owens, and they're cheering Cody. Now we've seen Cody and Sami stand side by side. The outlier is Owens, but we still got a few weeks. So
they still have 4 people on the Bloodline side.
Yes. So, but that's, that's what this thing is coming together fantastic, but that's what people are interested in. But it does take the star power down when you don't have Paul and you don't have Roman and you've just got the Usos even together in the ring. But the people listen to this because it was part of the story, and to see Cody and Sami. And then did you see what at 30 seconds before they went off the air, Cody ran and grabbed Sami's arm and raised it up for the people. He was the one to say, hey, cheers, Sami.
Smart.
Very smart, because it had been the other way around. A lot of people said, oh, see, they're telling Sami to try to make a suck up to Cody. The other way around,
Yeah, because again, Roman's not there. So this is all about these guys just did this stuff to Sami. Cody recognized that. It's all about Sami still.
Yeah. So anyway, that, it's 2 hours of television to keep up with the live interviews that you care about. It'd be amazing if they actually, I don't know, had matches that were made important and talent that didn't seem all interchangeable and just another cog in the wheel, just another prawn in the game, as people say. You've heard that saying, haven't you?
I have, yes.
A prawn in the game.
A prawn cocktail.
All right, well, that was SmackDown. They smacked it, and down it went.
And the whole show is just forgettable nonsense, the same people, the same stuff, the same words. And then you get, like you said, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Doesn't make it all worth it, but it's the most intriguing stuff in all of wrestling.
And again, I continue to be baffled at nobody can get anywhere near the middle where something might. The AEW fans have proven that they will like a wrestling match that makes sense when they see Danielson and MJF or Punk stuff or the FTR Briscoes matches. They love that stuff. They go crazy for it. It doesn't all have to be, the fucking Lollipop Guild and the clownery and buffoonery. And the WWE fans, they love the stars. It's just that they don't even love the matches the stars have. They just want to see the entrances and the promos and the gaga rather than the matches. That's the way that the WWE has trained their fans. But if they're into the stars, they'd be into their matches if they were made more important and allowed to breathe and develop. But you've got two extremes, and one is completely so professional that it's sterilized, and one is so completely unprofessional that it's goddamn laughable. I don't know. Again, they started with Cody, the big star, opening up a network program, Fox Network, and the story is simple. Can he bring an end to the 929-day reign of the champion Roman Reigns and finish his story and win the title for his daddy? And this is the best thing that WWE has done in years because it's real and people can tell it applies just to Cody. It's not something that writers came up with and then picked the guy off the roster that they were going to put in the deal. And he again did a great promo where he's got the utmost respect for Roman Reigns and he looks forward to beating him at WrestleMania. But he doesn't want to talk about somebody. He wants to talk to somebody. And Cody calls out Kevin Owens. And if you know, they milked the music a little bit like he wasn't going to come out. And if you notice when he came out, he ain't getting a reaction like he was. Because remember, we've said they're starting to get a little pissed that he's been so petulant and stubborn.
They were running out of time. They had to do this.
Yeah.
They had to do this.
Well, I mean, and the timeline was here also, but the people were starting to be impatient. But then Cody says, well, hey, this is a conversation between three people, and he brings out Sami. And, if only somebody could have predicted this. Cody Rhodes is the peacemaker to bring Sami and Owens together. And I'm not even being a smartass, because anybody who understands anything about wrestling would have known that this was going to happen pretty immediately, which is why I said it. Because that's the only way they could have done it. But again, Cody puts over Owens and how much Owens helped him when he quit the WWE to go out on his own. But why don't we have the conversation? And basically, Sami pleads his case with Owens. We've done horrible things to each other. We've always come back together. Scream at me, punch me, do what you need to do so we can get back together and do this, together. And Cody tells him it's what the fans want, them back together. It's, we're in the service industry here, pleasing the people. And Sami said, we can be the ones that bring down the ones. And then Owens turns him down and walks out again. And I thought, boy, something better happen here, because either that or he needs to join the Bloodline, because these people are about to shit all over Kevin Owens. And they go to the break, and when they come back, even in the parking lot, Sami stops him in the parking lot, said, you're wrong. We are friends. We're brothers. I love you. That's all I want to say. Just, I love you, and we'll always be friends and brothers. And Owens drives off on him. So they've built it perfectly, but I knew at that point something had to go on, or elsewise, Owens has gone off the cliff to where they're like, well, fuck him then. Find somebody else, right? But this was great.
This was great. You kind of knew he would come back in one way or another, but even though you knew that, it didn't take away from it. Sometimes the simple thing and the right thing is just the right thing and the simple thing to do. Between the in-ring thing, and I thought Cody was great, and for a second there, I thought he was going to call out Roman and not Kevin Owens, calls out Kevin Owens. They had to settle this all tonight. The thing backstage with him and Sami outside, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And Sami Zayn has been so good throughout this thing, but Kevin Owens' facial reactions, the way he reacted to all this was really great too. And these guys are they're all hitting the high marks right when they need to.
And they got it percolating, and we've got, 2 weeks. So
have they done enough, you think, to, how do I word this? Not let any of the stuff with Sami and Owens, or specifically with Sami, take away from Cody's run at the title?
Yes, because that's the overriding thing. Even if they're not talking about that match, they're reacting to something that's going on as a result of that match, or that all the pieces are coming into place where not only is the focus on the main event for the title, but also what happens with the rest of the bloodline and who's going to be responsible for neutralizing them so that Cody can accomplish the mission. It's all important, even if it's not, each individual involved in every segment. I think also, again, the fact that Cody is the one to try to talk sense into both of them and show that he wants them together and that he's not trying to win something for himself and take it away from Sami, but that he endorses them being friends and them in the fight. That's prevented people from going, well, why ain't Sami getting the push? And, the thing they did with Batista and Bryan Danielson years ago. So, I think they've done, again, like I said, and as we'll find out here later on at the end of the program, things happen, but now the Owens has been just a little petulant. He better fucking change his mind pretty soon. But
do you remember how he debuted in the company? I thought about it during this whole thing.
Owens?
Yeah.
I do not.
Sami Zayn won the NXT championship, and they had a big celebration. Pat Patterson was in the ring, Montreal guy. And it was the night that Owens debuted in NXT. He was out there celebrating, hugging, and then he immediately turned on Sami to start things. So when they say that they've had issues going back to the beginning, quite literally in terms of their WWE career or careers, since the moment he got there, they've been having their issues. So something I thought about.
Well, we couldn't stop them from wrestling each other in Ring of Honor. They wanted to fight in the parking lot for free, just anything, so they can do their stuff. Anyway, and finally we come to the main event. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso in the ring. Jey has said he wants Sami to pull up. Is that a thing the kids say? Because they said it about 18 times. He wants me to pull up. Well, I'm going to pull up.
That's right.
So that is a thing the kids say.
Yes.
Well, he pulled up. You want me to pull up? I pulled up. And actually, Jey did a great job with this.
He did a phenomenal job. I want to stop right there. He did a phenomenal job. He's been good, but on this promo, the words, but just you believe everything he's saying. He's really, really good at convincing you what he's saying, and I thought he was phenomenal here.
Yeah, and the story makes sense. From day one, I was the one I didn't like you. I didn't trust you. I saw through you, but they all started liking you, all but me. And then finally I let my guard down, and that was what made the most sense. You betrayed me. You made me look stupid. You embarrassed me in front of my family and in front of the people. You made me look stupid. This is a goddamn legitimate reason for somebody to be mad at somebody in the context of what we're doing here. And, I called you my brother, but you were a fake ass-oos. He was great, and he had passion. And then Sami said, no. You choose to take Roman Reigns' abuse every week. I wasn't going to do that. You're not mad at me. You're mad at yourself for taking it. You're mad that you weren't the one that hit Roman Reigns with that chair first, right? And, right as they're up there face to face, and Jey turns away, kind of like listening to the people, and then spins around and clocks old Sami. And boom, here they get in a fight. Here comes Jimmy. And they clobber Sami with the ring stairs, and they're beating him up, and then Owens music. And I'm thinking, goddamn, why'd they play the music? But while the Usos look down the entryway Owens comes in from behind and does if only he looked like something. When they got that shot of him coming in behind him and taking his jacket off like the badass, fucking action movie star is about to, if he just looked like something. Yeah, but he did it. He got it over. They liked it. He fucking comes in and beats up both the fucking Usos and sends them running. And then he and Sami look at each other and he walks across the ring. He gives him the big hug and the fans lost their fucking minds. The babies were in the air. And the only other thing that could make it even more perfect, as the babies are in the air and the French Canadians have settled their hostilities and they're hugging and copulating in the middle of the ring, you see the shot of Cody in the back, watching the monitor, watching the whole scene with a smile on his face.
That was perfect.
Perfect. And that's the way the show ends. So now and we got 2 weeks till WrestleMania, baby.
If you think of the last 3 months, from right before Royal Rumble to here, think of how many monster pops we have heard for things in this series of angles.
Yeah.
The chair shot, the hug, Jey Uso making up with Sami, then turning on him. The reactions to every little thing in this, I don't know what you want to call it, this Bloodline story, which encompasses so much, has been the highlight of professional wrestling.
And again, you've got, obviously, Heyman's been heavily involved. Roman Reigns is doing tremendous work. I've never worked with the guy. I've never met the guy, but I bet you he's got a pretty good goddamn head on his shoulders because he's carrying this also. Sami's done a tremendous job. Everybody involved in this has been, and then Cody, to be able to, because Cody didn't write his story when he came in last year about Roman Reigns and the belt involving Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, etc., because that wasn't a thing then. With this bloodline interaction, that happened while he was out, and now he's been able to come back, pick his story up where it left off, his angle, and at the same time incorporate these other guys that weren't even in the goddamn issue when that aspect of it was designed, him and Roman, and it's fitting better than it would have if it had happened. If he'd have had the whole goddamn last year and this bloodline thing hadn't happened, it wouldn't be as good as it is now. So things fell into place for once. Sometimes a guy gets hurt, it screws up all your plans. Sometimes a guy gets hurt, it ends up better in the long run.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it just depends.
So one of the nights of Mania, you're going to get Roman versus Cody as the main event. Should the main event of the other night be Charlotte versus Rhea or the Usos versus Owens and Zayn?
Well, should and what will is two different things. I think they've already said it's going to be Charlotte and Rhea, but in all honesty, and we've just put Charlotte and Rhea over and said we want to see the match, it should be Sami and Owens and the Usos, but they're not girls, and all the girls have to be equal, or elsewise the men will be upset. Have you noticed now, if the girls are not treated equally, the men are the ones that get upset?
Well, not the men with women. The lonely men get upset.
Oh, listen to all the lonely people who want to see too many girls matches. Okay.
What do you think that tag team match needs to be? Because obviously everything's been building towards the Usos versus Owens and Zayn. They haven't teamed up. They just made up. It can't just be a straight tag team match, Ken. I mean, what would you do with this now?
You know what? In all honesty, and I know some people are going to go, oh, now, Cornette, now you want to. It's WrestleMania, and it's a personal issue. It's a grudge match, a grudge fight. Don't even put the belts up. As a matter of lights out. Let Charlotte and Rhea be the main event. And then lights out match, street fight. But don't do it to set up numerous goofy stunts and make the furniture the centerpiece of the thing. Do it so you can have fucking Sami and goddamn Owens come out and hit the ring from behind, jumpstart the heels, do 10 or 12 minutes of the goddamnest, wildest pull-apart, four-way action all around the ringside area that you possibly can fucking put together, and then put the baby faces over. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Because it's not for the belts. They've still got to climb that hurdle, but they can win the fight, send the WrestleMania audience home happy. And because, again, if normally you want the heels to foil the baby faces several times at the start, because the baby faces have to work to get even. But in this case, with this reunion happening and them just getting back together, you've got to give the fans some gratification. You've got to give these guys a win in some fashion, but you don't want to blow your whole load and have them beat the heels and win the belts and put an end to the thing. So let them win a fight, but the belts still weren't on the line, because it was, and lights out, anything goes. We just demand personal satisfaction. WWE doesn't sanction the fucking belts being on the line. Then you still got somewhere to go. But yeah, I would do a wild, and not a wild 30 minutes at the end of the show, a wild 10 or 12 and fucking score the Fantastics and Midnight at the Clash of Champions in 88.
Yeah.
Wild in, out, boom, gone. Except we didn't put them over there. We had already put them over on television the week before, so we did a little angle and got some heat. But that style of match, just whirlwind, boom, 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 no slow spots. Don't build fucking structures with goddamn furniture. Hit people over the head with some chairs and tables. Fight a little bit. Baby faces win. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. That was Smackdown, and this is your show. Well, Jim, speaking of where things are going on, let's talk about WWE Raw, which was an interesting program this week. Of course, we're getting closer and closer to WrestleMania. There are a lot of stories that need to be tied together, things that need to come to a conclusion. And
things that need to come to a head.
I'll tell you, watching this show, it hit me just how good this Bloodline storyline is. It held me through this show just to see what would happen at the end.
Yes, and especially because I think almost 2 hours in, we were at 10 minutes of actual wrestling on screen. Yes, so, and I mean, that's what it is. It's basically let me watch Raw for anything involving the Bloodline and their ancillary opponents and partners and etc. And then they just, break in every once in a while with a match involving some goof you don't really give a shit about. And they started this program. This was the Raw for March 20th. So we've only got 10, 11, 12 days, whatever. But they started with Kevin Owens coming out, and he got a pop, but then they transitioned to the Sami music and the fans lose their shit. And for a long time, especially like in the Ring of Honor days, it was like Steen was the guy and Generico was the little buddy. And now the worms have turned. But I like that when they enter together and they get in the ring, I like it. These two raggedy looking fucking putzes that look like shit, but they've defied the odds and they've gotten over. They're the odd couple. Now, as a team, they can both look like shit, and it's the gimmick. They can work and talk, and they appeal to every fan in the audience. So, as an individual, Owens looks like complete shit to be the top guy, and Sami is painfully thin, and they're unkempt in their appearance, but they can work and talk. And as a team, both of them together looking like shit, it works. It's the motif. Now I like it. Okay? It's the way you present things. They can both wisecrack, and they interplay with each other because they've been doing it for years, since before they got into business, when they were dreaming of getting into business, because they're friends. And that's the one thing Owen said: for 20 years, I've been your biggest fan. At this point, they need to shave a couple of years off of that, because I can see some people in the audience, younger people, going, how the fuck old are these fucking guys? It doesn't look like they should have been wrestlers for 20 years. Nevertheless, and then they start talking about getting together and WrestleMania, and then the Usos come out. And Jay's like, Sami, you're a backstabber. Ain't nothing going to happen at WrestleMania, or Jimmy was, rather. But Owens gives the big challenge. Brothers versus brothers for the tag team title. What about it? Yeah, rah-rah. And Jimmy refuses, but Jay said, wait a minute. Okay, that's our chance to end this, fix our problem with you once and for all. So Jay agrees to it. And then as soon as he does, then they get in the big fight, and the Usos powder out. They're in the entranceway. They grab some chairs. Here come the referees and the agents, and suddenly on the screen, Roman Reigns' SUV pulls up, and Solo and Roman get out. Roman gets a huge pop getting out of his car on a big screen. And the fight stopped because, obviously,
Why
Brian,
did it
every
stop?
time you get in a street riot, whenever they show a picture on television of a movie star pulling up in their SUV, instantly the fight stops. But still, it's good. But this stuff is so good. So that's, again, now we've got the tag team title match. We talked about that on the show a couple of days ago. I said, well, maybe they could make it a grudge lights out match and not for the title and put the baby faces over, but still leave somewhere to go. But it appears to me that unless strange things happen and one of the baby faces here ends up looking like a plate full of piss, that a lot of belts have to change hands.
I'll tell you, the Usos have really won me over on the mic. Their facial expressions, the way they move, you look at their face and you don't think this is a guy reading lines. These seem like guys really going through some sort of emotion out there, dealing with all this. They've been great. I thought Owens was good here, just finally. They needed to get to that moment. Okay, let's settle it. Let's have the match. I was certain they would have gone like no DQ or something, because that's what this company. But they've got me to the point where I'm excited to see what this tag team match with the Usos against Zayn and Owens will be.
But then we come back to Roman and Paul with the Usos and Solo, and Roman's sitting, they're in their locker room. And there the Usos have just had their asses handed to them. And Roman says, well, it wasn't the best start to the night. Guys, okay? And Jimmy's like, I'm never going to forgive Sami Zayn, but we're going to settle this and blah, blah, blah.
To me, it was almost a swerve. Not a swerve, but they made you think he was laying into Roman when he, at the end, said it was about Sami.
I got you. Yeah, when he said, I'm sick and tired and fed up of being browbeaten and berated or whatever he said, and Roman started giving the little side eye, and he said, that no good Sami Zayn. Okay.
I have to answer for what I'm doing. I have to answer for my relationship with my brother. I'm sick of it. And you think he's going to say, I've had enough of Roman Reigns, which plays into the Cody promo later, actually. And instead, it's about Sami.
But it's also Jimmy saying that instead of Jay, when Jay was there. Say, there's so many ways they can go here. And that's when Roman kicks everybody out of the room except Jay, and Jay's sitting there all nervous. So they go to the break, and then they come back. And that's where Roman is telling Jay, so what? I haven't seen from you. I haven't seen you. I haven't heard from you. You leave us hanging. Now you're back making decisions. Are you Bloodline? Are you part of my family? And that's where Jay says he is. Not a Sami Zayn pleading, yes, Roman, believe me, just I'm your family, blood. I'm Bloodline. And so Roman says, well, I hope so. That's all I needed to hear. I love you. And then Jay leaves and Paul slams in, just creeps in. Did you get your answers you were looking for, my tribal chief? And Roman says, yes, ominously. It sounded like when he was telling Jay he loved him, almost like one of those Marlon Brando and the Godfather, I love you type of things.
Hello, Carlo.
So which way are they going here?
This was so good. I got lost in it for a moment that it didn't bother me that the camera was right in front of them. That they went to a commercial break on Jay Uso twitching, as opposed to any like, we'll be right back after this. No, sit down. I want to talk to you. What's going to happen? They go to commercial. They come back. To all the conversation lately, and I think Heyman's even said something publicly about these guys winning an Emmy or something. It really was telling when they finished this and they went back to the arena, and it's Corey Graves and the light speaking man, I forget what his name is.
The light speaking man.
Oh, we're so happy to be here. Yeah, that guy. When they went back, it was almost like another world. When you heard the crowd and everything else, I hate to use the word, but the acting in this from all of these participants has been amongst the best in wrestling on TV ever.
Yeah. Say delivery.
The delivery. Well, we'll see. Roman Reigns is going Hollywood, I think, but the delivery, yeah.
And then we went back to reality and almost beat Muhammad Ali with 2 double hand shoves and a choke slam.
Are you now really pumped up for Omos versus Brock?
Oh boy, how in the... I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I'll put it that way.
I shouldn't say anything.
What?
I said it a while back that I thought they were reuniting Lashley with the Hurt Business. And now that Lashley has no match with Bray Wyatt, at least we don't believe that's going to happen at this point, they kind of left it where the last time these guys wrestled and Lesnar got the better of most of those matches, Lesnar hit him in the balls to win the match, to lose the match. He didn't have to face Bray, who challenged the winner. But now that match isn't going to happen. Lashley's going nowhere right now. You can't do too much with Omos. I could see this turning into a Hurt Business reunion to kick the shit out of Lesnar at Mania.
Well, that would be probably better than what may happen if it doesn't happen. How's that sound?
I don't know, actually. Good or bad? One or the other.
I don't know. Figure it out. It's a double negative. All right. Nevertheless, the moment we've been waiting for, and we still had to wait for a little bit of it, at 10:45 Eastern Time, the Bloodline entrance begins. 10:45, Roman, Paul, and Solo, here they come. At 10:49, Roman Reigns asks for the microphone. At 10:50, he asks St. Louis to acknowledge him. And then immediately Cody's music hits and he does his entrance and gets his chance. And at 10:52, he spoke his first word. So they literally had entrances the same length as the goddamn segment that took place after the entrances, which I was just found tickling to me. But never, it takes a while to get it in the ring. But once they got there, this was, again, fucking brilliant. And I don't know now that if Roman Reigns may not have been the best promo in this set. Cody did great, but Roman was exceptional. And from the time that Cody asked, he said, well, you've been saying you got a Cody problem. What do you mean by a Cody problem? And Paul starts to say something, and Cody's like, I'm not talking to you. But Roman told him, you're not the problem. It's what you represent. And, I'm a fighter. I'm in God mode, right? You're just a pro wrestler. And look at your track record. You ran away from Stardust. You ran away and started a company that you couldn't get over in and then ran away from that. How many times would in previous eras would a line like that even been able to make WWE television?
Not too many.
But they know now that I think Triple H knows. Vince probably wouldn't go for it, but Triple H knows they've got an overall smaller audience than they ever have, and most of the people that still follow wrestling know what the fuck's happening. But anyway, and he says, then you come here and you get over and your body quit on you. Your pec went pop. And, April 3rd, you're going to have to get up and look in the mirror and you're going to run like a little bitch. And then Cody admitted that he did run away. And what he did was make it where 100% of the locker room could make more money. I think he's a little touchy there. Anyway.
But you know what part of the problem is for that one specific thing? And I don't think it's a fair line. Obviously, it's a line here in a promo. You ran away to start that other company and you couldn't get over there. And he said, well, I did that and 100% of the locker room makes more money. There aren't too many defenses for that in a promo. Like, what else is he going to say quickly?
He goes, well, but goddamn, I'm back and 10 pounds heavier. But nevertheless, he said, maybe he just is a pro wrestler, but nobody needs to bring my dad up again because at WrestleMania, you're going to see me. And then he fired up at him and cut a promo on April 2nd at WrestleMania. And on April 3rd, Roman, you're going to wake up without those titles. And then Jay and Jimmy will leave you, and Solo, and then Paul. And then you're going to be a Roman with no more reigns and a chief without a tribe. And he just told him off. And Roman stands there, and then just dropped the microphone and started walking out. And Paul goes with him. And then Solo and Cody face off because Cody's trash talking Solo. But Roman and Paul get halfway down the aisle and turn around. What's he doing? And they pull fucking Solo out. Well, Solo goes to fucking blister Cody, and Cody kicks him in the face. And
Cody goads him into doing something. Yeah,
Cody goads him, and then when he goes to do something, Cody gives him the boot, and as Solo's going to swing back, there Roman has got him, and he fucking stops him and calls him out. So now Solo's going into business for himself. But the last, that last promo segment, that did a great job, again, like all this stuff has, of selling this issue. And now we got all the principals together. Sami and Owens against the Usos. Cody against Roman. What will Solo do? You know, they've done a brilliant job on this, and both these guys could talk. But Roman was great here.
Roman's promos are good. Sometimes for me, it gets a little bit too much into, and then I'm going to smash like that.
Yeah.
But I liked it here. But to me, the best thing about this with Roman was what he didn't say. When Cody would say something and Roman would start selling it in his face like you believed him. You know, the confidence was going away. When he said, your family's going to abandon you, and you know it. It's going to happen to Jay, and it's going to be Jimmy, and eventually it'll be Solo, and eventually Heyman will be for hire again.
Yeah.
Watching Roman's face drop.
He'll be a rent boy again.
Well, I didn't say that. But watching
sale, rent, whatever.
Watching Roman's face drop and then react to it. Again, the reactions were good. Both guys did incredibly strong promos. Cody's been doing the best work of his entire career in the last few months since the Royal Rumble. They've made me interested in Solo. The way Solo reacted here, how he was ready to do something. Remember, the Usos are his brothers. So he ties into all of that too.
Yeah.
There is still so much up in the air, and that doesn't bother me. I'm looking forward. They've earned my trust with this program that I'm looking forward to how it's going to play out.
Well, there you go. So that was Raw. All right, anyway, speaking of opaque, so after that match, that's when Paul's already out there, Solo's already out there. And Cody, Jesus, his cardio also. I think I saw something on the internet about him doing an interview somewhere where he said he's really been doing cardio like a beast to get his, you know, during his rehab.
Running from Brandy's cooking.
Well, there you go, around the kitchen. But after that match, to be able to stand there and not be heaving and participate in the promo without, you know, really being blown up, that was pretty impressive also. But Paul cut a promo on him on himself in WrestleMania, and they revealed that this Monday on Raw, Cody will face Solo. So they've been kind of teasing that. And if he makes it through that, then Roman Reigns is going to be here next Friday night on SmackDown, one night before the start of WrestleMania fucking day. Is it not WrestleMania weekend?
I guess that is the official start of WrestleMania weekend, right? It's the Hall of Fame after SmackDown.
Well, yeah, there you go. Now, is that on? That's not on Fox.
No, it can't be.
So it's going to be on Peacock?
I assume. I like when you say Peacock as a question. It's kind of
Peacock?
Funny. Peacock?
Yeah, Peacock.
It sounds like a peacock.
Is it on Peacock? Peacock?
I believe it'll be there. Yes.
Bitch, it lives about 3 or 4 houses down from me. Has a goddamn rooster now, I'll have you know. Because every day I go out in the garage and open up the garage door, take Harley out or whatever, And I hear that goddamn rooster crowing, and I can tell the direction it's coming from. It's one of two properties. Would be over there raising the cocks.
It's a smart move. You get your property farm assessed.
He doesn't need a pharmacist. He's got a rooster.
Farm assess, save on your taxes.
How does a pharmacist save you on your taxes? Is he as well as dispensing drugs? Is he also doing income tax returns? I take mine over to H&R Farquhar. They're a good firm over here that I can turn you on to if you want.
All right.
Anyway, so Cody responded to Paul Heyman. He said, no.
Oh.
And Paul said,
"You're lucky you never did this around Vince. That would have been it. We've never had a peacock."
So anyway, Cody responded to Paulie and fired up and got the people behind him and told Paul off. And a good, strong promotion for it's the last Raw before WrestleMania, the 30 minutes into the show, and it's all been promotion for the main event. So excellent broadcast so far. Any comments on the interview?
Really liked it. I'm starting to really dig Solo. You know, at first when he came up and when we saw him in NXT, I don't know why he appeared younger. Now he looks kind of, I buy him a little more as the badass of the family or the ruffian of the family. I don't know what exactly. They're all
the ruffian.
I don't know what he's there and he's tough and I buy it. And I think he's been pretty good the last week because this match they're going to have on Raw, they started last week building up on Raw. So we get a full week out of this.
I've heard that most of the Samoans are just pussycats and teddy bears, but that every once in a while you will find a ruffian.
Do you remember that was Scott Cornish's question years ago? Everyone you talk to says Haku is the sweetest, nicest, most wonderful man in the world. Yet the other stories we hear are that he bites people's noses off and eats their faces. Why do so many people seem to bother this wonderfully nice, sweet man every time he's at the bar?
He went from handing out milk duds to the kids to then he took the man's nose. Anyway, now we come to the main event of Smackdown. And boy, you know, this is going to be a big match. Oh, no, wait, it's not a match because it's Smackdown. The KO show with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And I've loved everything that they've done with this so far. I think this was it was just, as Kevin Sullivan used to say, it was a maintenance angle. Just kind of kept things going and, you know, that were already going to begin with. And you got 10 minutes out of it to entertain the people. But they basically just bickered about whether they should have come out separate or together doing their little comedic byplay. And Owens joking about Sammy being more over than him. And then they did the thing where they bonded again and exchanged, or didn't exchange, but Owens gave Sammy his new gift t-shirt, which wasn't KO Mania, but WrestleZania. And they hugged and the Usos jumped him and beat Sammy up and Owens managed to chase him off with a chair. So it was kind of like, yeah, we got to get him on and we got to freshen it up, but we don't really need to do anything else. So let's just kind of do something to get us back to where we were. What'd you think?
And again, no Roman on this episode. So they do what they can to kind of fill in that big gap. It was all right. I'm not a big fan of these talk show in the ring, talk shows, whatever you want to call them.
Damn you, Roddy Piper.
His wasn't in the ring.
Darn you. But that's the thing, because he got it over. Now, 40 years later, they think every wrestler in the WWF ought to have a fucking talk show just for no apparent reason.
I don't know what it was. Maybe a little under a year and a half ago, we were talking about, is Kevin Owens going to re-sign with WWE or go to AEW? I think he made the right decision.
Boy, howdy, did he. I'll tell you what. And really, you know, we said at the time he could go and play with his former friends, but for that amount of money that this company that is still going to be the number one company, regardless of whether Tony ever gets his shit together or not, if they were offering him that much, he might be better off sticking around. But I think this, whether or not they are the main event on night one of WrestleMania, the Usos and Kevin and Sami, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat whatever kind of fucking pops they're going to get on that thing, because it's the, extended bloodline angle. And that's what everybody's interested in.
Hey, your Sammy made me think of something.
Sammy?
If you were Sammy Guevara, you think it's a little difficult right now that one of the top stars, if not the biggest babyface in wrestling, is named Sammy?
Sammy, I love when you fall down each Saturday night on my TV.
All right, that was about Chevy, but I guess you could apply it to Sammy.
It fits. Oh, but Sammy, you've got such a slappable face. I wish that you were falling for me.
Well, that was Smackdown.
It sure was. And then Gunther cuts the promo on Sheamus and Drew. And that was the entire program until we're up to the main event, which had been milked all night long. Cody Rhodes against Solo, the Enforcer. What's going to happen? And again, Cody has, I think, impeccable match layout skills in that he does a little bit of everything, but he's not like these other guys that have to do everything of everything. He'll roll out on the floor and give him a little action on the floor. A guy will get rattled onto the barricade or running the steps, and then back in the ring where it doesn't bury the referee and it doesn't then just take you out of it because it's just they're on the floor. And there's wrestling, but then there's fucking, spots, and he gets cut off for the heat, but he still, even though he fights from underneath, he gets hope spots, but he doesn't come back enough that it ruins the heel's heat until it's time for the big comeback. He's just very good with keeping things moving. And the only thing I didn't like about this match, honestly, from the time they started hot, and it was back and forth, and they're to the floor, and they're back to the ring, and Cody makes a comeback on the announce desk, and then Solo catches him on a dive and rock bottoms him on the desk and does it again, and they go to the break in the middle. It's like, Jesus Christ. They'll go to the break on anything in this fucking show. They were cooking, they had them, and it ruins the momentum. Anyway, the other thing, and I like Solo, and I know he's green, but I've got to say this again. If Jacob Fatu was in Solo's spot right now, had been brought in as the Enforcer, the Wild Man, the Street Tough, the Street Fighter, they would already be saying Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu should be either at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble next year. This spot is doing wonders for Solo, don't get me wrong. But Solo's green, and he's still limited as far as flipping out. He's got a bit of a stone face, and he looks kind of like he's nicely groomed. And it's a lot of punch and kick, but he doesn't lose control of himself to the point where you think this guy could fucking bite somebody's carotid artery out. If Jacob Fatu was in this spot, the next fucking major program for Roman Reigns would be Jacob Fatu. And I don't see that with Roman Reigns and Solo, or even Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I know people are saying, well, Jey needs to work with Roman. He can work with him, but not major fucking program. So anyway, I was envisioning that as I saw it. Cody made a big comeback, hit the Cody cutter, hit the crossroads, and Solo got his leg on the ropes after Cody buzzed him for a second, turn around. And then Cody misses a moonsault. Solo goes for the spike and misses. Cody hits another Cody cutter. And the Usos music plays. And I'm thinking, now they've progressed past playing music for run-ins, and now they just play music for guys to enter and watch at ringside in the middle of a match. And so anyway, Solo hits super kick and a rock bottom for a 2 count. And then Sammy's music plays, and out comes Sami and Owens, and they jump the Usos on the floor, who've never gotten in the ring, and Cody foils the spike and hits the crossroads again, 1, 2, 3. So nice match, and again, everything that needed to be done before WrestleMania has pretty much been done, so they couldn't reinvent the wheel here, but it was, except for the last couple of segments there, the show was pretty, yeah.
Yeah, it was a surprisingly dull show going into WrestleMania.
But wait, you can't do everything every week. Then we'd complain about that. Well, they've done too much. So this time they erred on the side of safety and did too little.
Yeah, they never really do too much. That's never really the argument about WWE. They just did too much. I couldn't focus on all the good stuff. There was too much going on.
Well, let's make it worse. Let's go to Smackdown, where we really got a lot of talk. No, this was the final Smackdown, March 31st, before the big first night of WrestleMania. And as we mentioned on Raw, they couldn't really do a lot more because there wasn't a lot that had been left undone, right? And so it was just kind of maintenance stuff to make sure everybody knows who, everybody's still mad at. And they opened this Smackdown with the Usos coming out and to do an in-ring interview, and they spoke for about 15 seconds, and here comes Sami Zayn's music. And there's so many tunes that they're all interchangeable to me.
Chris Jericho invented that.
I heard that from his own chicken lips. So here comes Sami and Kevin, and they get in the ring. And I just said, they've pretty much said and done everything. There's not a lot that they haven't done or said. So that's when Kevin and Sami say, tonight, we're going to make sure that there's nothing left unsaid, which is an excuse for them to talk for 10 minutes. Because here's the thing. I'm not saying this was a bad interview, but they've built this thing up, betrayal and, vengeance and family. And when the two opposing forces or teams just get in the ring together, all of them with microphones, and stand there and talk with no announcer, no referees, no authority figure, or no Dana White in between the fighters at the photo op at the weigh-in. How mad can they be? They're standing there fucking talking trash to each other. Just hit somebody, right? With no structure of a sports-based presentation television program, and the guys normally we just gloss over this because it's so commonplace. They've been doing it for so long because there's really no grudge matches anymore. But this one, it's kind of a grudge match. They've been firing on all cylinders and they hit their magic formula. So it stood out more that they're just all with microphones just talking to each other because they can't fight yet because that's on the pay-per-view, but we got to have them out here on TV for the ratings. And we didn't put a lot of thought into it. We just let them tell each other off. It was a time filler. There was no new ground broken or anything that whipped you up into a frenzy. As Sami basically again tried to put doubt in the Usos' minds as to whether Roman would be loyal to them or not. And tells them when we win the belts, you guys can go back to being yourselves, right? And then the Usos tell Sami he'll lose and Kevin's going to turn on him again. And they gave the heels the final word, and all four of them stared at each other, and that was pretty much it. There's almost a danger, and it wasn't as prevalent in the territory days when it was only an hour TV or the promotions only had one TV show per week, or there wasn't this constant expectation that everybody that's wrestling on the big show will have interaction on every program. But there's a danger sometimes when you put guys in your hot match when you put them together with each other, they're interacting with each other too much before the big match. It kind of takes the edge off because people are, well, Well, fuck. If they were that fucking mad, they'd have done something about it by now. You see what I'm saying?
You think it would have been better to have each team get a win at different points in the show and then follow it with a promo?
Possibly. They had plenty of time to do that because of these meaningless four-ways that prefaced the meaningless four-way tags that they were going to have on WrestleMania. But again, that's kind of a rule. They've got a checklist that they have to have this match or that talent exposed to lead to the pay-per-view. But does anybody give a shit about the 4-team matches? No. Male or female. They're just stuck on the show because they want to get those guys a payoff and don't want them bitching that they weren't on WrestleMania. So it might have been better than just have, but then they're thinking, well, the ratings, we want to get the ratings, so they should be in the ring with each other. But then you kind of take the edge off the bigger deal. I don't know. Am I being too critical?
I mean, you're being critical. I mean, too critical, who knows? It's in the eye of the beholder. But I think there's a real point there because there have been a few times, this one specifically, where as hot as things are, it felt like there was a week where they really didn't have like too much. It was like, okay, let's just general interaction on this week's show. And to what I said earlier, if you had Owens and Zayn get a nice conclusive victory over some team and then follow it up with a fired up promo in front of that house in the town that the show's going to be in, that was a hot crowd, and then have the Usos do the same thing, does that build up interest in the pay-per-view more than just a debate with no touching? I don't know.
Yes. And no resolution. But anyway, we come now to the main event of Smackdown, which is the promo. Cody makes his entrance. And what do you want to talk about? And he cut another... Go ahead.
The first time he did it, it was kind of like, okay, this is a funny little line considering everything going on. Then the second time he did it, I referenced the first time he did it. Now he's in WWE, he's doing it for every promo. I'm getting a little sick of, so what do you guys want to talk about?
Well, they're not exactly...
No one's reacting to it either.
In the air and bringing the house down for it like, when The Rock says, finally... but that's his thing. But he told him what he wanted to talk about. He did a good promo again, promoted the big match, rah-rahed the fans, did some Tupac lyrics. He stopped before he said he would go into the stuff that was too adult for Fox. I've never heard a Tupac song, so I can't comment on that. I loved the line where he said Roman Reigns was an 11-year multi-million-dollar investment that didn't pay off till year 8. That was pretty fucking stiff. And he, was introducing himself as the next champion. And at WrestleMania, I'm going to finish. And he started to say my story. And then Roman's music hits. And Roman does his 3-minute entrance. And then they had the face-off. And Roman started to do his deal, hey, LA, acknowledge me. But no, he said, wait, I don't care about them. It's your turn. Cody Rhodes, acknowledge me. And then he dropped the microphone. They went face to face. Roman lifted the belt up and they went off the air. So
what do you think happened after that? Did they get out of the ring? Did they fight? Did they fight all the way until WrestleMania? What happened?
I don't think they did. I think they got out of the ring because, again, we've seen them go face to face. And it was another ratings ploy, if you'd like to use that term for it, but it was just another way to get them in the middle of the ring, but nothing happened. Cody did another excellent promo. It didn't need Roman for that. Roman's part was to stand there face to face and hold the belt in the air. And then I guess once they went off the air, there was some type of awkward why yada, and then they left. But this was pretty much just a refresher show the night before. Did I miss anything in that last segment?
No, I don't think so. Is that what you think this should be, the night before night 1 of WrestleMania?
Well, yes, it should be. I mean, you can't shoot a major angle that you expect to get, any play or have any impact 24 hours before the fucking show, because then by the time that, People would have time to hear about it, sink in, see it, talk about it, refresh it, relive it, it's gone. But, at the same time, they do it so much. Just let's get the participants in the ring together with each other in some fashion, even if absolutely nothing happens. And I'm not saying something should happen every time. They do too many angles. That's why many of them don't register. But I'm saying you can't have your cake and eat it too, in terms of if you have the participants in a big match that you're trying to sell, a big premium live event, whatever, if you have the participants together on TV every week, being able to advertise that may help the ratings, but you can't have them fight constantly or fight every time, or it takes the edge off the match. And as we mentioned earlier, with the Usos and Owens and Sami, if you have them in the ring and they don't fight, it sometimes kind of takes the edge off the thing. They all should be represented on the show, but you can't have them interact just every week unless you're doing something to further things along. Because then people say, well, they say they're going to be face-to-face, but the last time the one guy held the belt up and the other guy stood and glared at him and nothing happened. So then you're kind of losing your credibility when you advertise that. You tease them, and if they know that nothing happens more often than not. So it's a balancing act.
Should someone yell at the end of the show, like one of the commentators, like, we have to go off the air?
Yes.
There's none of that. It's just silence.
Yes. Instead of just, well, that's it. If that's where JR was so good in the Attitude Era, if Roman is standing there holding the belt up and Cody's staring him in the face, instead of it just going to fucking black or a football commercial or whatever, JR would do the fill and he would say, the most dominant champion of modern times faces his biggest challenge ever in less than 24 hours. Can Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, finish his story? Then you go to the fucking break. But Kevin Dunn or somebody, or it's Vince or the two of them together, or they've trained all of the technical crew and the announcers, this is what we do. This is how we do it.
This just breaking. Vince now wants to be referred to as Pierre.
And he is so lucky. He is so lucky. Lucky Pierre. And then it was time for our main event of night one. And again, I got to be honest with you, they should have made Rhea and Charlotte main event. And I thought tag title match, lights out match. After this, I think they should have just reversed the order, because it was a happy ending either way. You didn't want me to talk about happy endings anymore.
I don't think the audience would have reacted the way they did to the Rhea Ripley match if that was on after this. Because of the way things have been built up, you couldn't have something after the big pop of Sami and Owens getting their win.
Yeah, true. It was such a much better match. I'm not even going to knock Sami and Owens here. You just knew that the French Canadians were going to pull something out, some death-defying stunt or whatever. I want to like the Usos. I love this story so much. The Usos, to me, I don't see great tag team. There's nothing wrong with them, but I don't see great tag team. I don't see Midnight Express. I don't see Tully and Arn. I don't see Rock and Roll Express. I don't see Bulldogs. I don't see Heart Foundation. Maybe it's part of that they've been presented, as I said before in the program, as Roman's flunkies in a lot of cases and a lot of confrontations. And part of it is that they have the modern style of working, but would you say either Uso is really a really sharp, accomplished, I'm not talking technical wrestler in terms of mat wrestling, I'm talking about the execution of all their shit is smooth and crisp?
Not necessarily, and I think the Bloodline storyline has been great for them, and they've been excellent in it. They've had some really good matches, but there aren't a lot of Uso matches I've been a big fan of. I was never a big fan of their in-ring stuff as much as I've loved everything else with them recently.
They ain't FTR in the ring. But unfortunately for FTR, they were in the main event at WrestleMania, whereas FTR is in the main event over at fucking Cocaine Tony's place. Anyway, they started the match. They quickly cut Sami off and started getting heat on him because, again, that's what his best quality in the ring has always been to me, even back in the El Generico days, as a babyface selling. That's where and fighting back. That's where he shines. And the drunk leg, stagger walk, dish rag body, he's fucking great. And they started slow because after all the fans had seen, they needed to keep a place to go at the end. So they put this together well early on. You know, again, they gave Kevin a tag so he could make a comeback. The first comeback he made was on the floor, where he's just splash him on the floor and then get back in the ring. And it's hard to make a comeback on the floor that earlier in the match, but he wanted to save his big comeback for in the ring. We saw that later on. So anyway, then they cut Kevin off because they're going to get some heat on Kevin. And there were a ton of super kicks and top rope splashes in this match, to be honest, a lot of them. And it went back and forth. And again, they cut Sami off again and worked him over in multiple super kicks. And this was the point where they started having a more modern match. And some of the things took me out of it. Like they did the thing where while they're 2-on-1 against Sami, Owens is on the floor somewhere out of sight forever. What the fuck? I couldn't even remember what had happened to him last. I was like, is he dead? People would come back from fucking multiple sclerosis quicker than... But they have to wait for their spot. That's a modern match. I can't even remember a match in the territory days where the fucking partner just goes down to the floor and lays there for minutes at a time. They're either taken out or they get, it distracts me because I keep looking around for fucking dipshit. Where is he? Where is he? Anyway, as soon as the Usos go for the 1D, that's where Owens appears fresh as a daisy and foils it suddenly. So they double choke slam him through the desk. He's gone again. Or at least he's got a reason to be gone then. And then they hit the 1D on Sami and get a 2 count, but he kicks out. And they beat up Sami some more, and finally Owens struggles to the apron again. Hot tag. Now he makes his big comeback. And again, a lot of false finishes with a lot of super kicks. The people are up. Everybody's doing super kicks. They like them. And finally, the Usos both come off the top on Owens. Cover, 1-2 count. Big pop for the kick out. And then everything comes to a halt again. And then one of the Usos and Kevin get in the corner and have a little conversation where they remember what's going on. And then more super kicks. Now, I guess that's what I'm saying is that they have to do such intricate, convoluted, complicated shit over and over and over in the modern style matches, and or eliminating one or more of the participants for long lengths of time, that it takes me out of it because I know the people are loving the chaos, but I'm sorry, I just naturally follow a match for does it make sense, because that was the most important thing back when you had to actually draw money on your own. Anyway, so Sami then throws Jimmy over the desk, and Owens hits the fisherman suplex off the top rope onto the other Uso and tags Sami, and that's a big pop. And Sami gives Jay the big haluva kick, and again, and a third one. Cover 1, 2, 3. And big celebration because they did. And you could tell they were both broken up and emotional because there they are. You know, Fat Ass and Forrest Gump sitting there in the ring in front of 75,000 people at a stadium just main eventing WrestleMania. So they were legitimately touched. And you could tell. So the people, that was the right result. It was a good match. People loved it. Little modern for my taste in spots where they just take the liberties. But overall, exactly what they needed to do. don't you think?
It's the result that I thought it had to be, going into what I think has to happen tonight as we are recording, and I think we have to go into Raw with the Bloodline having lost all their championships, and then we see what happens with Roman and the rest of the family. Do they abandon him, or does he turn on them? But a good first night of WrestleMania. This match, I think, had to be the main event, and I think that they gave the people what they wanted. It took, for me, a little bit to get into it, because the Ripley-Charlotte match is an all-timer. That match was incredible. And it's like following Steamboat and Savage. How do you follow a match like that? By the end of this, they got people really into it. Too many super kicks for me. If you squinted, this is like what Owens and Zayn versus the Young Bucks could have been. But I thought it was a good match.
but at least the Usos are grown adult men.
That's true.
That does help.
That's true. But I thought it was a good match, and I thought the last few minutes were really great just because the fans were really into it. And the Helluva kick, whenever I've read it in print, I thought it was the hell of a kick.
Well, I think that's part of the rib. It's spelled like that. But, you know, I guess El Generico couldn't cuss because he was involved with the orphanage in Mexico.
I think the reason I don't like it is just it sounds like something Excalibur would say, the Helluva kick. So I just don't want to say it. But by the time he hit the third one and Jey Uso's just standing there, his head is like, slouched down. It was a great moment. And it ends WrestleMania Night 1 on the right note. In the old school way, the traditional way, I guess, WWE used to like to send people home happy. They did so here this night.
Well, and sometimes that's what you need to do. And I'll tell you what, I made a big mistake in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in my booking when we had built remember the 3-team 9-man street fight, Bobby Eaton and Tom Pritchard and Stan Lane, the Heavenly Bodies against Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, and Dutch Mantell, the Stud Stable against the Rock and Roll Express and Arn Anderson. And all three teams hated each other. And we had that big 3-way street fight at the Bluegrass Brawl. But 2 weeks later in Knoxville and Johnson City, we were doing a 3-way tag match for the belts. And I thought, well, goddamn, if the babyfaces win this street fight, then the heat's going to be off the heels going into Knoxville and Johnson City. So I had the Bodies fuck the Rock and Roll and then come back to and it just in the building, it was a great match, but the finish would have been an all-time pop. And instead the heels winning deflated the people. I should have given them the fucking babyface win and then done something, either heat after or even just let it go with that and done something else for television before the next big shows. But I did. Sometimes you have to give the people what they expect to see and what they'd like to see. You can't give it all to them all the time, or then they get placated because they always get what they want. And then if they weren't mad at the heels and they're not upset about anything, there was no reason to fucking go. You're not going to go buy a ticket to see the fucking babyface lose. That'd be insane. So sometimes you have to give the people what they expect, even if it's expected, or they lose faith in whether they're going to see it the next time they want to pay to see it or not.
So to put a bow on night 1, looking at the results, would you say that the results to the matches are exactly what they should have been? Other than the matches you didn't pay attention to, like the...
Well, yeah, then that nobody would give a shit either way. Yeah, the 4 teams or whatever. No, yes, everything we were talking about, unless this is going to be an ongoing thing where it's going to continue with Cena and Theory. Theory needed to win, and he did. Ray beat Dominic, which he should have, but at the same time, that doesn't hurt Dominic's heat because he's that type of heel that he can lose and keep it. Rhea definitely needed to win the belt from Charlotte. That propelled her a step up. And as we've mentioned, if not even... I didn't know whether they ought to take all the belts at one time, but obviously this is going to be part of the story that they're going to be telling. So, but you couldn't fucking beat Sammy and Kevin, especially on last in this particular instance, because that would have pissed people off. So every finish was what it should have been.
I can't even imagine what it would have felt like if they had ended this show with the Usos winning.
Oh, no. I can't even imagine that was in serious discussion. So,
yeah.
Ever. Should we we get to the main event of the evening.
The main event for the undisputed Universal Champion. What is that way of announcing?
It's because everybody thinks that they're Michael Buffer now. And I don't know. And some of them, they're imitating Smiley Roberts over on the other channel when he herniates himself whenever Moxley comes out.
Well, this was the big match, the one everyone was waiting for. Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, versus Cody Rhodes.
Well, I would have liked to waited a little longer after I saw what I saw. Cody's entrance in the Sgt. Pepper outfit with his mom and the whole family in the front row, that was good. Were there 6 grand pianos for Roman Reigns' entrance?
Well, there were 6 pianos. It looked like one guy had a Casio stuffed in there, so I don't know what they were really playing, but...
I'm not sure. It may have been, Kay Kaiser and his College of Musical Knowledge, but nevertheless.
Get Shane out of the way. We need to get the pianos down the hall. Hey, real quick, I thought it was really cool that Cody Rhodes had Brody Lee Jr. -1 in AEW there at ringside, and I'm sure it meant a lot to him.
Yes,
really cool.
He gave him the belt, right? The weight belt.
Right, but then Solo stole it. That dastardly Solo Sikoa.
No good son of a gun. But yeah, now that's the way to use Brody Lee's son and make him feel good and make him part of things and not, the way that AEW. But again, another company does AEW shit better than AEW does. From the time Roman Reigns said, "Acknowledge me," and the people blew, they were into this. It's what they came to see. And the match, I thought, was as close to as perfect until the finish, was as close to as perfectly what they should have done as possible. And again, they start with wrestling. And they did exactly what they should do. A back and forth, but not trading moves with each other. It was momentum changes where it made sense that one guy would take over and then something would happen and the other guy would get blah, blah, blah. And then, again, they're not going to take all the giant bumps in the first part of the match, but the Cody especially has been mixing his matches up where he'll give them some wrestling. He'll give them a cute spot that pays off and gets a pop. They'll go out on the floor and they'll rattle some things around and a couple of body slams on the floor, but Cody at the same time at least pays lip service to rolling in and breaking the count to the referee so that he doesn't bury it completely, even though it's very loose. A little bit of everything to keep it moving. And they obviously clearly set up who was heel and who was babyface. Solo and Heyman are there, and Solo interfered to hit Cody in the ribs with a chair. And then Cody would fire up a second later, and Solo tripped him. And then they did one of the big bumps, the big spots, where they went out to the announce desks, and Roman tried the pile driver, and Cody backdropped him through the desk, and that looked like $1 million. But then Cody rolls Roman in, and Roman was running again. Even them. But Cody makes a big comeback. People are up. He hits the first Cody cutter, gets a 2 count. And then he hits his dive and throws him in. And that's where Solo stole the belt and whipped Cody with it. And good old referee Rudy Charles from TNA, my old friend, heard it and kicked Solo out of ringside. And now they start the big false finishes. And they had some great ones. Cody super kick and crossroads 2 count. Roman rock bottom 2 count. Cody pedigree 2 count. Roman Superman punch 2 count. And now you're seeing Roman Reigns' facials. He's got doubt. He's got despair. He's got, dare I say, even panic. Right? The facials were great on Roman because he was into another zone of showing vulnerability, right?
Yes, I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
So then, again, some more false finishes. When Cody got the figure 4, the announcer, Cole and Corey Graves, popped like it was Dusty's hold. How many matches did His old man win with that? Almost none.
How many championships? He actually said how many championships has he won with that hold? Not one I could think of.
The only time when he wrestled Flair and would reverse it, that's when he'd get the figure 4.
Dusty Rhodes won more matches with a flying cross body than he did the figure 4 leg lock.
And that wasn't really a flying, it was just a cross body. It's more like a cross body drop. Anyway, so then there was Roman reversed the figure 4. Cody got the ropes. Roman hit a spear and got a 2 count. And then he front face locked Cody, but Cody fought out of it. And Cody got the ground and pound, went for the kick, and Roman moved and they wiped the referee out. And then Roman hit the punch, but then Cody hit a clothesline and they both sold. And Cody was going to go for the crossroads when here come the Usos with the super kicks and a 1D on Cody. And they drag Roman into the cover. But then here comes Sami and Owens hit. And they fight the Usos, to the point where the Usos bail. And then I was like, Owens gave Roman a stunner and Sami hit the kick on Roman. And I didn't know, because I still thought they were going to do the right thing. And I thought, I don't know how I felt about that. And because to me, when baby faces run out to stop interference in a title match or to help a top baby face, they can't do any damage for him. They only have to level the playing field. They have to take out the people that are interfering. They have to neutralize the outside menace. But when they do damage to the babyface's actual opponent, then that becomes this guy not doing it on his own, but he had people helping him. Now, we didn't have to cross that bridge by the time we got to it, but that's what I was concerned about there. But then the Usos came back in and fought Sami and Kevin off. So Cody, at that point, crawled back in and covered Roman, and the referee got back in and gave the slow count, like this is going to be it. 2 count, kick out. And I'm, now I wrote going too far, ? Because if that's not it, what can be, right? And they fought on their knees, and they went back and forth, and then Cody hit the jabs and the flip-flop and fly and the bionic elbow, and the people are up again, and a crossroads, and a second crossroads, and as he's pulled him up, and he's going to go for another one, Heyman jumps up on the apron and draws the referee, and Cody's standing there for longer than he should have been. And then in comes Solo in a hoodie in disguise and hits him in the throat with the spike. And Roman hits the ropes after he's been flip-flopped and flied and bionic elbowed and crossroads twice. Roman jumps up, hits the ropes, and spears him. 1, 2, 3. Cody is defeated. And it went, hey! What do you think, Brian?
I was really getting into it by the end of it. And when Solo hit that spike before the pin actually happened, I said, oh no. And then Roman won. Like everyone, disappointed, had expectations going into this. We talked about the Lex Luger comparisons. It wasn't even that. I feel bad for Cody. WWE, Paul Levesque during the press conference after the fact said, we have our story. We're still telling it. This is still the beginning of the Bloodline story. So they don't see Cody winning it as, they see Cody winning it maybe the same way they saw Sami winning it. This is just another step to whatever the bigger story is. It better not be Dwayne Johnson coming back to end the Bloodline. It has to be someone being made because of this. And Cody was in that spot. I mean, the big question I have coming out of this, Roman and the Bloodline, the storyline will continue starting tonight on Raw. But for Cody, even if he wins the title now at some point, it doesn't mean as much as it would have. So
see, that's, well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. It probably won't mean as much. Now, again, they can have some, and they better, but they can be convinced that they have some twists and turns, some development, whatever's going to happen from here, that it'll be, wait till you see it, and it'll all play out, and it'll be even better than, you thought it was going to be. That's, I'm sure, what's in the mind of creative in the office. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who trust them and like them are going to be saying, well, of course, they weren't going to do it then. And you got to see what's going to happen and how everything's going to play out. The problem is, this is a story. And at some point, every story, even new chapters, you can't just have an endless book. Every story has to come to an end, and then you either write a new story with new characters, or you use the same characters and you write a sequel. But every story has to have some nominal end, and this was the perfect place for this one. If the pec tear hadn't happened, and when Cody first came in, they were probably pointing toward this year's WrestleMania anyway. I don't know what they would have done to keep him busy if he hadn't been out for 9 months. But when the pec tear happened, and the packages have been so good, the promos have been so good, people have gotten into the story. People are always into the fucking story until they're not into the story anymore. And the balancing act that you walk is it's the same thing, telling a joke. Or fucking, the punchline has to come with the timing, comic timing, athletic timing, everything's timing. When the time is right, as Abdullah the Butcher used to say. And I'm sorry, but I just wonder if this is maybe an even bigger budget equivalent of the Sheik throwing the fireball at Andre in Toronto. Well, now do people just say, well, fuck, okay, that's it. There is no hope now. So we'll go about our business. For the people who don't know what I just referenced, the Sheik for 7 years in Toronto was undefeated. And they ran Toronto 25 times a year in those days. Every show that he was in the main event. He was on almost all the shows, and every show that he was on drew more than 10,000 people. So he was selling north of 250,000 tickets a year in Toronto alone for 7 years. Never lost. They bring in Andre the Giant. Andre versus the Sheik. People, now this has got to be it. Andre fucking comes in the ring. Sheik comes in the ring. They go 2 minutes. Sheik throws a fireball in Andre's face. Andre rolls out, gets counted out. And Sheik never drew 10,000 people in Toronto again, did he, after that?
I don't think so.
So there's a time where every good story peaks, where we talked about it on the previous show, where sometimes you have to give the people what they expect because it's the logical thing. And when you sometimes extend these things past their natural life, it doesn't have the same effect when you finally do whatever you were going to do. So I don't have a good feeling that they did the right thing because of the anticipation and the expectation and the genuine, wanting this more than people mostly, usually, lately, recently, have wanted anything to happen in that whole company. And they may have put it off until the point where it ain't going to pop like it would have.
And now the story also is beyond the Bloodline stuff tonight, Cody, because he didn't just lose. He was laying there in the ring while they celebrated. And then as they left, he was just in the ring, sitting there by himself. There wasn't a big, all right, let's hear it for Cody moment or anything at the end. He was just sitting there seeing all this happen. So it's going to be, the creative is going to be a big part of this. What are they going to do with Cody from here?
Who are they going to make in the next year that will have a better story, more momentum, more attractive, culminate in such a place, in such a way, with such a match that they can make that person by beating Roman Reigns. If not now and this guy, then when and who?
Well, there it is, Jim. Your look at the rise of the Bloodline. They're still rising. It's still happening. They're still going. There's still more that we've talked about and more to talk about. But what are your final thoughts here about the rise of the Bloodline?
Well, again, like you said, they have made this work consistently to where even us experts thought a number of times, well, it can't go any further. They have to blow it off. They're pressing their luck, and they've kept it fresh. And, as long as the Samoans keep procreating at this level, and I have a feeling there's no danger of that coming to a cease, they could be set for the next few years. We may do omnibuy after omnibuy after omnibuy.
But we will see what happens. And until then, of course, you can hear the week to week as it happens on the Drive-Thru and the Experience, and you can hear us there as well. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!